families, often Conservatives, tired of the city life and seeking a new home, and people involved in national politics. What's happening here in small-town Tennessee is really a proxy for two big fights playing out on the national stage. The first, a split between different factions of the American right. We can see a divide emerging between MAGA politicians and commentators who endorse or embrace this new Christian nationalist ideology, and those who see it as a step too far, something un-American and authoritarian. And there's another, different, big political fight happening here in small-town America too, between the left and the right of mainstream US politics.
There's definitely a renewed DNC focus on rural engagement.
The Democrat Party.
Yes.
Yeah. Josh Abatoy again, the developer building a conservative community here in rural Tennessee. Areas like this are reliable vote winners for Republicans. And now, a Democratic Party committee preparing for the upcoming US midterm elections has announced a big new investment to win over rural voters. It's kind of like small towns like Gainsborough are the new frontier of big national political battles.
Yeah, I think they are.
Big forces in politics looking to small communities to fight and win. The people here, like Nan Coons, can feel it.
You know, as one person, I don't have that much influence over a presidential election, but when they literally move on to my street, that's where I can say, okay, this is where we have to draw the line.
Assignment was presented by me, Ellie House, and produced by Mike Wendling.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is...
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello there, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we are live in downtown Winnipeg in our CBC studios on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app, and on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us. Show is until 8:37 AM, and hopefully your Thursday is going fine. Out there in Winnipeg, it sure is foggy. It is misty, and the trees are all coated in ice, looking beautiful, but white. -5 is the temperature right now. There's fog in Brandon, -11. Thompson's cloudy and -7. In fact, there is a yellow level advisory for fog that does include the city of Winnipeg, Steinbach, Selkirk, Dougal, Portage, Morden, Brandon, Killarney, Verdon, Minnedosa, as well as areas around Gladstone as well. So you get the picture. You're going to want to be careful if you're driving out there. Let's say good morning to the team. If you are commuting, you're going to call Corey if you have a problem today, I hope. Corey directs the show and will be covering the commute. Corey Funk, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Abby Adeyemi, who's behind the controls. He'll be keeping an eye on our weather as well. And there's Mr. Darren Marash, who's the producer of our YouTube stream. So if you're watching the show live, please say hello. Let's go to Heather Wells and say hello. She's in our news center, and she starts with our news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, an Alberta company that proposed mining silica sand in Manitoba has now partnered with the province's biggest university. CO Silica has teamed up with the University of Manitoba to work on an experimental design of a groundwater monitoring network. The partnership comes as this company renews efforts to extract sand beneath the aquifer of the RM of Springfield. So we'll hear more about that. Also, 7 new measles exposure sites have been identified in Brandon after that initial exposure at Ag Days in January. We are going to hear from a Brandon daycare operator coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
In the show today, sadness, fear, and anxiety. We're going to talk to a registered psychologist about some of the feelings around the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge, BC. Obviously, we're still awaiting to hear more details on World Report. You're going to hear about vigils held overnight in Tumbler Ridge. We still don't have all of the names of the victims, for example. But this is very much a moment of national grieving, and so we're going to talk about that. Also, a Winnipeg transit advocate wants to have a transit riders union. We talked to him yesterday on this show. We'll hear what Winnipeggers think of that idea, so stay tuned. That's coming up as well. Right now, though, on CBC World Report.
On Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power. Joan Chen has been acting for decades, but her new film, Montreal Ma Belle, gave her something rare, the chance to play a love story at this stage of her career. She'll be here to talk about the role and why playing immigrant mothers on screen has been cathartic for her.
But I truly enjoyed being anonymous.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
These kids lost their lives for absolutely no reason whatsoever. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life ever. Coach my kids through this is going to be a difficult thing to do.
Raw emotion from one resident of Tumbler Ridge, BC. Dennis Campbell's daughter hid when a shooter opened fire in her school. He says 4 of her friends died. The suspected shooter killed 8 people at the school and a nearby home. She then killed herself. More than 24 others were wounded. 2 of them are still in critical condition. John Hernandez has more.
The full extent of what has happened is not sunk in, and there are going to be some long days, weeks, and months ahead.
Speaking in front of the Tumbler Ridge Town Hall Wednesday night, BC's Premier David Eby offered condolences to families who are suffering.
All of us here will make sure that the supports are here, knowing that they will never be adequate for what you are going through.
A community vigil was held in Tumbler Ridge. Candles were lit and flowers dropped at the base of a tall pine tree outside the town community center. The grieving came hours after the shocking details were made public by police. The 18-year-old shooter, identified as Jesse Van Roostelaar, attacked students at Tumbler Ridge Secondary. 3 12-year-old girls and 2 boys aged 12 and 13 were killed. A 39-year-old female teacher was also found dead. 2 victims are in hospital. Van Roostelaar is also believed to have murdered her 11-year-old stepbrother and 39-year-old mother, Jennifer Strang. Their bodies were found in their home. Mayor Daryl Kirkauka says support counselors dispatched to the community have already proven to be a critical help.
It is so important when we see a tragedy like this, with young lives lost, families don't have their children coming home.
The BC government has cancelled today's planned throne speech and will instead hold a day of mourning for the victims. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Today is election day in Bangladesh. That is the scene in the capital, Dhaka, as frontrunner Tariq Rahman cast his ballot. Today's vote is considered the first free and fair election in Bangladesh in nearly 20 years. In 2024, a student-led uprising toppled the country's autocratic leader. Now millions of people are choosing a new parliament. They're also voting on a referendum to rewrite the constitution. The goal is to prevent any future leader from seizing absolute power. Farmers in India are voicing their opposition to a recent trade deal with the U.S. This protest in Calcutta is one of hundreds happening across the country. The trade agreement cuts tariffs on agricultural goods imported from the U.S. Farmers say that makes India a dumping ground for cheap U.S. food products. Ishan Garg has more from New Delhi.
We are demanding what we deserve, not charity. That's the battle cry of farmers and trade unions taking part in nationwide protests against the interim trade framework between India and the United States. Thousands rallied outside government offices today saying tariff cuts on U.S. imports will open the floodgates to cheaper American goods and squeeze local producers. Farmers say they were not consulted, even though they will be hit the hardest. Trade union leader M.S. Mansoori accuses Prime Minister Narendra Modi of bowing to U.S. pressure. Why should India bend to America's will, while Russia and Iran will not, he says. Indian officials insist the pact will not hurt farmers, saying sensitive goods like wheat, poultry and dairy items have been kept off the table, and that tariff reductions from 50% to 18% will boost Indian exports to the US. But there is confusion and controversy over what exactly was agreed. India's official version and the US statement don't fully match on which products see tariff cuts and what future market access talks could cover. Officials in both capitals, however, are calling the trade package a major step forward. They say tariff reductions mark a big win for India-US ties and could pave the way for a broader deal ahead. Ishan Garg for CBC News in New Delhi.
In Switzerland, people will vote in a contentious referendum this summer. They'll decide whether or not the country should limit its population to 10 million people. The proposal was brought forward by the far-right Swiss People's Party. If it passes, Switzerland would have to deny entrance to newcomers if the population reaches 9.5 million people. Both chambers of parliament, as well as the business and financial services community, oppose the plan. They say it would destroy Switzerland's economy. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security is fewer than 24 hours away from a funding deadline. But first, the leaders of ICE, Border Control, and Immigration Services will be grilled on Capitol Hill. A Senate committee will ask them to defend the Trump administration's mass deportation policies. Willie Lowry is following the story in Washington. And Willie, what do we expect from this morning's hearing?
Yeah, this is the first time senators will have the chance to grill these top government officials, including Todd Lyons, the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, since the killing of 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis at the hands of ICE agents. Republican Senator Rand Paul, who chairs the Homeland Security Committee, called the hearing shortly after the killing of Alex Preddy. He says he's worried that the public has lost trust in ICE. Lyons and the heads of both the Customs and Border Protection and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services appeared in front of Congress earlier this week and refused to answer questions surrounding the deaths of Preddy and Renee Good. It's unclear if today will be any different.
And right now, Willie, there's a partial government shutdown hanging in the balance. How likely is it to happen?
That's right. Hanging over all of this is the possibility of another partial government shutdown. Democrats calling for a host of changes to the way ICE operates. So far, they've been met by resistance from the White House. Both Democrats and Republicans have telegraphed that the delta between them may be too wide to reach a deal before Friday, meaning Homeland Security could shut down over the weekend.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry reporting from Washington. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says the United States is still the only power capable of ending the war in Ukraine. But he says allies like Canada are the ones footing the bill for the weapons. NATO defense ministers are meeting today in Brussels, and Rutte is praising the White House for its leadership.
The U.S. is still delivering crucial air defense and other lethal weapons into Ukraine through this Pearl program, so paid for by Canadian, European allies and partners. And the U.S. is leading the peace effort, and there is only one country, the most powerful nation.
Rutte says this collaboration is the only way to break the deadlock with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian skeleton racer Vladislav Herskevich is not competing today. He was disqualified after he insisted on racing in a helmet with the images of Ukrainian athletes killed in the war. As Briar Stewart reports, Herskevich calls the disqualification the price of maintaining his dignity.
Herskevich, it looks like he's not going to start.
After a last-minute meeting with the president of the International Olympic Committee in Cortina, Italy, Ukrainian racer Vladislav Herskevich was banned from competing over his insistence to wear a helmet featuring the images of Ukrainian athletes who've been killed in the war. He had been wearing it during practice runs, but the IOC said it violated the rules of expression on the field of play, and he couldn't wear it in the race. When he refused to abide by those rules, he was disqualified.
A terrible decision. I believe it's very unequal treatment, and I believe it's very wrong.
Ukraine's foreign minister called the IOC decision a moment of shame. The president of the IOC, Kirsty Coventry, met with Herskevich this morning.
He would not consider the many compromises that we offered him.
Mark Adams is the IOC spokesperson.
With 130 conflicts in the world, 130 different cases, if everyone is allowed to express themselves in that way, beyond a black armband, it will create a field of play which becomes a field of expression.
Adams was asked why Herskevich can't wear the helmet, but other athletes can pay tribute to their family members, including figure skaters holding up photos while waiting for their scores. The IOC reiterated that Herskevich was asked just not to wear the helmet during the race. He says he plans to appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, but it's not clear how soon his case could be heard. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Milan.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and it is Thursday, February 12th. Thanks for being here. It's going to be mild again today in the city, but foggy. Really foggy, actually, in the city and across a lot of southern Manitoba. So Abby will have that in the forecast in a moment. This hour on the show, as the country continues to come to terms with what happened in Tumbler Ridge yesterday, one of the worst school shootings in Canada, we're going to talk to a psychologist about how the news might be affecting people all across the country, and also about how misinformation might be affecting you and your kids all across the country in these early days of what we are trying to confirm about what happened, about the shooter, and about the victims. So stay tuned for all of that as well. Also this hour on the show, one Winnipeg transit advocate says it's time for bus riders in the city to join forces and unionize. We had them on the show this week. This hour we're going to hear what you thought of that idea. We're also going to hear from some in the city of Toronto where they're already unionized for riders. It was on the CBC Manitoba Radio Noon call-in yesterday, so we've got some highlights from that conversation. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She is here with other local headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a healthcare union is going to court to make sure workplaces across the province are safe. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals has filed a court order saying the NDP government isn't doing enough. It says Manitoba has laws to keep workers safe, but accuses Shared Health of breaking or ignoring these laws. We'll hear more. And a rural school division says it is temporarily putting all international trips on hold. The Red River Valley School Division says it's concerned about student safety given geopolitical tensions and specifically names the U.S. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
It's so pretty outside, Heather Wells.
It is gorgeous. Do you know what? There is a tree, a beautiful big tree in Osborne Village that is lit up at night. And so when I come through in the morning on my way to work, the lights are on and it looks beautiful. But this morning, because of the fog, the tree is all white with the lights. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, on my way in, I drive through part of River Heights, and as you know, the neighborhood has a lot of these streets where the trees on either side are so old that they actually touch, and it's like going through a canopy. And I had the same experience this morning. Yeah, it was all coated in white and every limb. It's very pretty outside. Good day for a walk. It's going to stay mild as well, but the fog is something to take care of, or be aware of rather. Abby's going to talk about that right now. Good morning, Abby. Eddie.
Good morning, Marcy. Yes, we are really under that thick blanket of fog that will be creating really difficult travel for those that were coming into the city or driving outside the city. Tracking that fog down the 75 at this time, and the number one, you notice it if you're heading towards Brandon, and if you're heading towards the U.S. border near zero visibility, you might only get to see like 2 cars ahead of you or even one, so you need to take it easy. Hence that yellow fog advisory we have, which is in effect for the Red River Valley, the Pembina Valley, the Westman and the Interlake regions. Visibility is definitely prone to suddenly reduce to near zero for a lot of people commuting this morning, so make plans accordingly and try to reduce your speed when necessary. But for Winnipeg right now, -5, those misty conditions, we're noticing it in the city. It will stay dense this morning. Then we expect it to lift and we'll see a mix of sun and clouds break through for a high of 0 later today. Though the morning temperature is still going to be hovering around, let's just say -5 and -13 before we get to the midday period. But for now, we are around -5, and it's going to be a quiet evening. We're going to see those fog actually return later tonight. Across the south, we're seeing 4 degrees we're seeing 6 degrees in the Morden area and 14 degrees in the Brandon area. Gimley's at -5 right now, and most of the regions up north, we're seeing temperatures close to -10. But for Winnipeg, we are sitting around -5, -6, depending on where you are in the city.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into the morning commute. Good morning, Corey Funk.
Good morning. Yes, quiet commute so far. But if you do see something going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, you can give me a call. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, I invited Manitobans to share positive messages for the people in Tumbler Ridge, BC yesterday on my Facebook page, and a lot of you have been writing in. Janet Taves saying it's hard to know what to say. The families must be devastated and heartbroken. I will and do continue to keep them in my thoughts and send them comforting energy. Also, Kathleen Noel Black writing in to my Facebook page, condolences to the family, friends, and community. Hope mental health and grief counseling is provided. Then let's think again more about prevention, more mental health care, fewer guns, and what we can do to make and what can we do that will make a difference, Kathleen writes. Well, let's talk about Tumbler Ridge, BC. Since the news broke of this school shooting, Canadians everywhere are experiencing a range of emotions. This was the second worst school shooting in our country's history. There's shock, sadness, there's even renewed anxiety about violence in Canada. And joining me this morning to start the show and talk about it is psychologist and author Sarah Dimmerman. Good morning.
Good morning.
So how would you describe the way people across Canada might be feeling in the aftermath of this?
Well, I think because fortunately mass shootings of this kind are far less common in Canada, many Canadians are feeling shocked and afraid or anxious. I've heard words such as surreal, and I never thought anything like this could happen so close to home meaning Canada. Also because it's difficult not to personalize what's happened, especially if you have children. Feelings and thoughts about the unimaginable grief of losing a child, especially in this way, would be experienced. And especially if one lives in a smaller community, one's sense of safety may be temporarily shattered.
Tell me more about the impact this news could have on children and teens.
Well, because the school was grades 7 to 12, so it had some younger kids in than some other secondary schools in other parts of Canada. I think that anybody that's at an age where, especially when they read about other 12 or 13-year-old kids who lost their lives, I think that they might be most struck by it. But anyone that goes to school, as I said, the school-age children, as you said, are greatly impacted by the news. And as much as we can try to put parental controls on their phones and try to hide some of the graphic details from them, they're still going to hear what's gone on. And I think no matter how many times schools have practiced lockdown drills or evacuations, most people tend not to believe that it'll ever happen to them. So I think that they are greatly impacted. A lot of kids will, be processing their experience and emotions. And, for parents to be aware that even if they're quiet doesn't mean that they're not thinking about it. So don't be afraid to gently bring it up or to ask them what they know in order to be able to talk to them about it. And if you don't feel that you can help a teen, who's having a really hard time with this cope, then it would be very, very helpful to look for outside help to help them.
What should people keep in mind about their news and information consumption at a time like this?
I think it's really important to make sure that any information you're reading or hearing about come from credible, reliable sources. Random people's posts on social media, for example, are not reliable, no matter how factual they appear. Sometimes we don't know the difference between what's person-generated versus AI-generated. Posts often spread like wildfire and rumors are created. As I mentioned, it's normal human curiosity to want to get to the bottom of things and to try to make sense of them, but try to be patient and wait for reliable sources to report the facts.
Even some of the facts are going to leave people with difficult conversations here. Not the facts, but even some of the sources that we would think of as reliable are spreading information that is incorrect. I'm going to give you an example because we have it coming up in the show today.
Okay.
We learned the alleged killer was a trans woman yesterday. Some are putting blame on the trans community. They're perpetuating a false narrative that trans people are disproportionately involved in violent acts. That when I'm talking about in the reliable sources, you would think that an MLA would be reliable. So BC MLA Tara Armstrong tweeted in part, quote, "There is an epidemic of transgender violence spreading across the West. This epidemic of violence," she went on to say, "will continue until we change our society's response to transgender ideology," unquote. I'm reading that because that should be a reliable source, but as I've outlined, that is factually incorrect. I am wondering, because we're here to talk about psychology, what do you suggest parents of trans kids how they handled this moment.
Well, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, that anytime that you personalize what's going on in the news, such as when you have children and this shooting that involves children, it's closer to home. And so I think, especially because information is coming out about Jessie being trans, and then reading those kinds of posts that are so misleading, I think that a lot of kids who are either in stages of transitioning or thinking of transitioning or have transitioned will really be greatly impacted by that. And it's so untrue because being trans does not make you violent. Jessie may have been very angry and very unhappy and had great mental health distress, as is noted by the police being called, several times. She left school 4 years ago at the age of 14, maybe indicating that she was bullied or had issues academically, issues within the home.
Which we don't know.
Mm-hmm. We just can speculate. And the fact that she killed her mother and stepbrother may point to some issues at home. But there's so much that goes on. Her being transgender is almost, it's irrelevant in terms of the violent behavior. It may be relevant only because many people who are transitioning or have transitioned, especially maybe in smaller communities, may not be as understood, may not be able to get access to certain services, may be seen as being different, whereas if you live in a big city, being transgender is quite common.
Yeah, but all of it speaks to all these things that we don't know, and people drawing lines, as you said, to a narrative, of somehow that the violence has something to do with the factual identity of who Jessie, how Jessie identified is something I think parents will have to walk through as well.
Yeah, I think that it's very wise that you're bringing that up because it's very untrue. And yes, I think kids who are either transgendered or going through the process, and the parents will have to be handling this in a different kind of way, and maybe getting even some help from organizations that help with LGBTQ people.
Sad all the way around. I mean, it's as we still await the names of those little victims and the teacher. All right, thank you very much for being with us, Sarah, on this on this day.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Sarah Dimmerman with us live, psychologist and author, and I alluded to more coverage in our show today. Some people are blaming the trans community after the police confirmed the suspect in the BC mass shooting was a trans woman. We're going to hear how that blame is already affecting some Manitobans, and we'll hear the very latest on the case and how people were attending last night a vigil in Tumbler Ridge, BC.
Catalogs. They've been around since the mid-1800s, and they help build the country, reaching rural folks in far-flung towns and villages to have access to the same goods as city dwellers. Simpson Sears, Eaton's, and J. Peterman?
Oh, for the love of God!
Catalogs rise again on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on demand on CBC Listen.
I used to love that J. Peterman bit on Seinfeld. Still ahead on the show as well this morning, we're going to talk about the bus. You love writing to us about transit, I'll tell you what. And it meant a robust call-in yesterday on Radio Noon between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. Of course, we've just come through the biggest generational change to our transit system in Winnipeg that we've, seen in a generation. And so, what do you think about the idea now of a cap on transit fares? The City of Toronto is already doing this.
The City of Toronto just yesterday actually passed a fare capping plan, so replacing the upfront costs of a monthly pass with a cap on fares, something that we have been advocating for more than 10 years.
And so that was the executive director of TTC Riders. His advocacy group helped make this happen. Is it something that Winnipeg needs? We're going to have more on that as we explore the idea of a riders union here in Winnipeg. So we've had a series of stories on it. And as I mentioned, we have some highlights from a good discussion yesterday on Radio Noon coming up in the next half hour here this morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are on The Morning Show, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube Information Radio. It is misty out there. It is foggy out there. there. There's a fog advisory for most of southern Manitoba, including Winnipeg. Right now it's -5, and we will once again be well above zero today. In fact, we're going to be well above normal today and right at zero. That's our daytime high in the city of Winnipeg. Over in Brandon, you're going to be right around -1, and up in Thompson today, you're going to be at -2. We have local news at 6:30, but before we get there, it is time now for Olympic Update.
Good morning, I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic Games report. Some are calling this Full Throttle Thursday in Milano Cortina. With 4 medals so far, it's possible Canada doubles that number by the time this day is done. Looking to set the tone this morning are the country's men's mogulists.
Okay. And he's first! McKinsey 73-71! He's in first right now. Let's just...
And that is Mikkel Kingsbury with a run that has him on the podium. Joining me now, my Olympic Report co-host Sonali Karnik, who's been watching it all. Sonali, what's the latest? That's awesome. Thanks so much, Sonali. That is my Olympic Report co-host, Sonali Karnik. Next up, when it comes to Canadians possibly making the podium today, is a guy who did just that at the last Games.
Second place, Canada.
That's Elliot Grandin receiving his silver medal in Beijing. The Quebecer actually claimed 2 silvers at those Games in men's snowboard cross and in the mixed team event alongside Marietta Odine. Unfortunately, Odine will miss these Games after getting hurt in practice last week, but Grandin is ready to go. Snowboard cross, one of the Winter Olympics' most exciting disciplines, basically BMX on snow, will go at 9 o'clock this morning, Eastern Time. Now, if there's one sport today where Canada could really make a mark, that's speed skating, both on the long and short tracks. With a look ahead to today's races, here's CBC speed skating commentator Signa Butler.
3-time Olympic medalist Isabelle Weideman of Ottawa aims for the podium in her signature 5,000-meter distance. This is the event where she won the silver medal 4 years ago in Beijing. Laura Hall of Salmon Arm, BC will also race in the 5K. Later, it's edge-of-your-seat action in short track. First, the women's 500-meter, 4.5 laps around the track with 3 Canadians in the mix. World Tour Crystal Globe winner Courtney Sareau of Moncton, New Brunswick, 2-time Olympic bronze medalist in the 500 Kim Boutin, and former World Junior star Florence Brunel skate in the quarterfinals. Then it's the men's 1,000-meter where William Dagenou of Sherbrooke, Quebec, and Felix Roussel, the top 2 qualifiers in terms of time, battle it out in the quarterfinals. All 5 of these skaters were part of Canada's mixed relay silver medal winning team already in the Games. Signa Butler, CBC Olympics.
Among the competitors Signa just told us about, Isabelle Weideman is up first. The women's 5,000 meters goes at 10:30 Eastern Time. To skeleton now, where Josephs Brusiks will be Canada's lone competitor when the men's final goes tomorrow. Someone who will not compete in that race is Ukraine's Vladislav Heraskevich. It's because of the equipment he wants to wear. Heraskevich came to the Games with a customized helmet showing the faces of more than 20 Ukrainian athletes and coaches killed since the country was invaded by Russia. IOC President Kirsty Coventry was in tears as she explained the helmet violated rules against making political statements at the Games.
I really wanted to see him race today. It's been an emotional morning. For me, I was not speaking to him in that room as a president. I was speaking to him as an athlete. We have these rules in place to try and be fair. And I really, truly believe that both he and his dad understand that.
That would appear not to be the case. Heraskevich and his father, Mikhailo, told reporters they do not believe the helmet violates IOC rules. And so, one of Ukraine's best medal hopes at these Games will not get a chance to compete. We have Canada's men's hockey team making its debut later on today. Connor McDavid and company will take on Czechia. That's at 10:40 this morning Eastern Time. And, of course, the big news this hour, Mikhail Kingsbury with silver in men's moguls. Canada now sitting at 5 medals overall. That is your Olympic Winter Games report. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is foggy. We do have a fog advisory for Winnipeg and parts of southern Manitoba. Then a mix of sun and clouds this afternoon, a high today of 0. A provincial day of mourning has been declared in British Columbia in honor of the victims of this week's mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge.
Our heartfelt condolences go out, of course, to the victims and their loved ones as they navigate unimaginable grief. No words can fully ease the pain of such a tragedy.
BC MLA Lauren Dirksen speaking last night at a vigil in Victoria. A vigil was also held in Tumbler Ridge, along with a community town hall gathering attended by BC Premier David Eby.
Everybody's worried about somebody else. Every single person has said, well, just make sure you're looking after this group of people. No one is focusing on themselves here. Everybody is reaching out to support someone else in this community right now.
All of this followed the RCMP releasing some initial details about the shooting. They say it was carried out by 18-year-old Jesse Van Rootsellaar, who killed 5 students and a teacher at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. 2 victims of that attack remain in hospital. Now, earlier, police believed the shooter had killed her mother and an 11-year-old stepbrother. Their bodies were discovered at the family home. You can hear the latest on this story as it continues to develop, coming up on World Report at 7. Several Manitoba school divisions are maintaining a pause on school trips to the U.S. Many temporarily stopped going south of the border last year because of policies of the Trump administration. A southern Manitoba school division says it now is stopping all international travel because of geopolitical tensions, specifically naming the U.S. Red River Valley Superintendent Daniel Preteau says it is all about student safety.
We started to analyze, is this the best time to be sending our kids internationally due to the geopolitical tensions that are very present in a lot of countries right now. The board and senior admin found that it was the best decision in this current context.
And he says some trips to the U.S. would be cheaper because they're so close to the border, but he says keeping students safe is their top priority. A healthcare union is going to court to make sure workplaces across the province are safe. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals has filed a court order because it says the NDP government isn't doing enough. CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
The Union for Allied Health Workers says there are laws in Manitoba to keep workers safe, but it accuses Shared Health of breaking or ignoring these laws. That's part of an application for a court order filed Monday with the Court of King's Bench against the provincial government. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals says the government is failing to ensure the safety and wellness of its members. Specifically, the union says Shared Health failed to create workplace safety and health programs, establish a workplace safety and health committee, and investigate cases of violence against workers. The government didn't respond to CBC's request for comment. The province has taken steps in recent years to improve safety. Some facilities now have institutional safety officers who have the legal authority to detain people. A judge is scheduled to hear the application later this month. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
7 new measles exposure sites have been identified in Brandon after an initial exposure at Ag Days, the big fair, in January. A Brandon daycare operator says so far there have been no measles cases among the dozens of children in her care. Marianne Thiessen runs BU Early Learning Center.
COVID has taught us a lot. We've gone through it, and here's another illness that potentially for some can be life-threatening, for others not, and our families have stepped up. So I can just say we really appreciate the families who are able to make inoculations a priority.
It is not mandatory for children to be inoculated for measles. Thiessen says any child with measles must stay away from the daycare for 10 days. An Alberta company that proposed mining silica sand in Manitoba has partnered with the province's biggest university. CO Silica has teamed up with the University of Manitoba to work on an experimental design of a groundwater monitoring network. The partnership comes as CO Silica renews efforts to extract sand beneath the aquifer in the Arm of Springfield. Carla Devlin is president of CO Silica.
Water safety comes first. This work is about understanding the aquifer as a complete system, not in isolation, not reactively, but comprehensively.
However, the researcher leading this project says the monitoring system can only detect quantities of groundwater, not the quality. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, straight into our foggy forecast we go with Abby Adiemi.
Good morning, Marcy. The province actually waking up to this blanket of snow towards the southern part of the province. We're actually tracking it all the way from the Flin Flon towards the Interlake region this morning. It's also impacting the Pembina Valley region, the Westman region, and the Red River Valley region. We're looking at near zero visibility. Winnipeg right now, -5 with misty and heavy fog. Expected to lift, and then we'll see a mix of sun and cloud breakthrough for a high of 0 this afternoon. Conditions across south, -5 to -14s, while up north we're seeing this steady temperature of -8s and -9s across the region. Thompson right now -17, but in Churchill we're looking at a sharp wind chill around -32, means a risk of frostbite is real. But Winnipeg, it's misty and -5 now.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, anything to tee up on the commute?
No, quiet commute so far. Of course, that fog may be an issue on the highway, so I'd love to get some updates on what folks might be seeing out there. But if you do see something going on here in the city on the highways, you can give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Yeah, fog can sometimes be, and all the mist can be, she ain't pretty, she just looks that way, right?
Right.
All right, let's get into business news. Phil DeMont is here with our report. Good morning.
Morning, Marcy.
So American job numbers did come in, and they were better than expected for January. Canada's were worse than expected. Do we have two economies going in different directions, or is that too broadly stated?
Nah, it appears to be the case, but there are some caveats. The U.S. economy spun off 130,000 new jobs last month. That's the number that came out this week. That was twice what economists had expected. Meanwhile, Canada, our number was out earlier for January, but we lost 25,000 jobs, and that was worse than analysts had predicted. Yeah, Marcy, you can see the split screen when you look at the GDP forecast for the two countries. BMO estimates the U.S. economy to expand 2.6% this year, a bit better than last year. Canada, 1.4%, so basically about half the rate. First thing to recognize, though, is that Canada's performance is matched by the rest of the world, or a lot of the rest of the world. Germany has hit a 12-year high in the number of unemployed in that country. France, highest jobless rate in 4 years. Japan can't get its economy to grow more than 1%. By contrast, the American economy is gaining momentum. But here's where some of the issues pop up. And I might be looking like for a cloud in a sunny sky, but these numbers are kind of what they are. You take the last 3 months, the average job gain in the U.S., 80,000. Not a bad number, except during the boom years, let's say after 2021, they were throwing off about 400,000 jobs a month. So the numbers aren't matching anywhere close to what they were during the really, really good days. BMO estimates that the private sector in January in the U.S. added 48,000 new jobs, but that was only 40% of the total. The rest would have been government and nonprofit positions, so you think they might peter out at some point. And finally, and this one actually is a bit startling, it turned out the American economy didn't add. The estimates were 584,000 jobs last year, and that would have been a fairly low number for the American economy. They revised it during the week, like this week, 180,000 jobs, so way worse than the first estimates, but also the worst year on record outside of a recession. So you can make the argument that maybe January's really good number was kind of playing catch-up from a lousy 2025.
Shopify, to another story here out of Ottawa, is spending $2 billion buying its own shares. Why is the company doing that?
Yeah, this is about share buybacks and why you do them. Technology stocks under fire these days, and Shopify basically doesn't believe its good results are getting reflected in its stock price. So it announced its fourth quarter and year numbers on Wednesday, revenue profit up, so are its future prospects. But despite that decent news, the Shopify stock fell 7% in trading. That negativity is getting reflected in the overall tech sector, whether it's NVIDIA, AMD, any of the chip players. Since October, the NASDAQ index, which is basically the technology side of the economy, down 4%. The Dow up 9%. So that's almost 15% is the change. Basically, Shopify has this math. If they think, for example, the stock's worth $225, buying it now, and if they're right, they get a 40% gain. So I would take the 40% gain if I could get it, and that's kind of what they're thinking. Also, it will get other people and funds to buy the stock because they'll look and say, well, Shopify really thinks that their company is going to do well, and so therefore we should buy the stock too. Isn't alone, though, engaging in buyback strategies. 2025 was the fifth year in a row that stock companies spent more money buying back their own shares than they did giving investors dividends.
And finally, this morning, you have a story about Alphabet, Google's parent, that's selling a bond that you can cash in 100 years. And why are they doing that?
Kind of because they can. This week, Alphabet raised $32 billion U.S. in a big bond issue, but not your usual boring bond. This one matures in 100 years. Yep, 2126. So now work this out. So your grandkids will be able to cash the bond. With a long lead time, like who's buying this puppy? Turns out companies and funds with really long lead times. Think insurers, pension funds, maybe universities with an endowment. They tend to match the maturity of investments up with the timing of cash outlays. If you have a 10-year mortgage and a bank, you try and match it up with a 10-year bond, that kind of math. They do get a better return with the Google bond, but 6% versus 4% for the 10-year U.S. Risk is obviously the company disappears or is in a more distressed state than when you bought the bond. So look at Motorola. They issued a Century bond in 1997 when it was a top 25 company. Now it's 232nd on that list. So they're not doing as well as when you bought the bond. But this issue, the Alphabet bond had 10 times more demand than the size of the offering. And that's a sign that a lot of people certainly think Google will be around in 100 years.
All right, Phil, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Phil DeMont with Business News. 6:42 Thursday morning, and it is February 12th. If you're checking the calendar, we're almost halfway through this month already. Wow. Misty, foggy out there, -5 in Winnipeg, going to be well above normal at 0 today for a daytime high in the city. Well, speaking of the city of Winnipeg, it seems like everyone here has something to say about transit, especially after the route changes last year. We've been asking this week, what if Winnipeggers joined forces? We talked to the creator of a transit riders union in Toronto and talked to someone here who says we could use that here. The executive director of TTC Riders is Andrew Pulsifer. He spoke to CBC's Bruce Layden about the Riders Union there on Radio Noon.
One of the benefits of maybe having a group that represents transit users is to have like a singular voice to contact or be the point of contact, I guess, between the city and the riders. How does that work? Do you have a representative? Does the city recognize you as a group?
Sometimes depending on who's sort of in charge of the TTC and others. We've had good relationships with politicians and staff at the TTC and have sat at the table to be stakeholder consultants on various strategies that they're putting forward. We've consulted on their safety plan. We will be consulting on their wayfinding and signage plan as well. But it's more than just having that direct one-on-one contact, right? Like we present ourselves as a constituency, right? That cannot be ignored. We show up to TTC board meetings, right? To speak directly to decision makers about how their decisions will impact transit riders. We organize thousands of Torontonians to sign petitions for better transit, for more affordable transit. The city of Toronto just yesterday actually passed a fare capping plan, so replacing the upfront costs of a monthly pass with a cap on fares, something that we have been advocating for more than 10 years. And that came about because of having, yes, one-on-one meetings with decision makers. We met with the mayor last February and proposed this as an idea to her. But we also, sent in thousands of petitions and emailed our councillors and showed up to meetings to depute, to talk about how these decisions will have a personal impact on riders' lives.
So that was the executive director of TTC Riders, Andrew Pulsifer, speaking to CBC's Bruce Layden yesterday on Radio Noon. That followed our coverage in the morning of talking to a Winnipegger here who wanted a riders union. And then Noon went further. They opened the phone lines. So as you know, Radio Noon's call-in segment is every day between 12:30 and 1. And yesterday, they asked you what you think here in Winnipeg of a riders union. Here's what some people had to say on the phone line.
We're going to go talk to Logan right now. Hi, Logan.
Hi there, sir.
What are your thoughts?
Having a ridership union would be an excellent idea. I certainly think the nomenclature of calling it a union as opposed to an alliance definitely carries more weight and breadth to it. Certainly with Toronto's model of the non-waged option as a part of the membership is an excellent idea. However, there needs to be a nationwide unionized idea for ridership, for local people to join, so that these ideas, which are bounced off and echo-repeated off these local patchwork organizations, can be brought up by a singular organization, cut through some of the who do we talk to, where do we go, because every city is different, who's representing them, and it should be a national union with locals in every major city. That's the bigger picture, of course, and that will take a great deal of time to get to. But imagine the power and authority you would have as a local, being able to go up to your city hall and voice your concerns, but also be able to be a touch point for the broader reach of transit. Things like CUDA, Canadian Urban Transportation Association, bring up ideas for infrastructure and further developments to them that trickle down, because all these large cities all go to these big meetings and they all bounce ideas off each other. If there's one point, if there's one organization to go to, you're going to get your voice heard with the numbers and the multiplying factor.
Okay, thanks, Logan. We're going to move on. We'll head over here to Kyle now. Kyle is with the Functional Transit Winnipeg group. Hi, Kyle.
Hi, Bruce. What I'm hearing is so exciting. Transit users identifying problems that affect them most and organizing to make change happen.
Right.
Functional Transit Winnipeg, we are like a nonpartisan grassroots group of volunteers who advocate for better transit service. And we know how important it is to educate, to organize, but then to lead that to action. Those are crucial tools. There's so much work, but they're so rewarding. And even though Functional Transit still works with the city, the Amalgamated Transit Union, and other groups like Winnipeg on those big structural issues, the crisis facing transit service is huge. It needs massive attention, and more is better. A riders union in Winnipeg could be another powerful tool to make it happen. The city of Winnipeg passed the Winnipeg Transit Master Plan a few years ago, and that's great. But it's dribbled out over 25 years. And what that means is that the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be and the less we're going to get. We need pressure on the city to make sure that that funding is not someday, is now. It'll never be cheaper to build that infrastructure than today. We need those bus lanes in place. We need those priority signals. We need that infrastructure right now.
That was a call-in segment on our Radio Noon show with CBC's Bruce Layden. And so it's important for us to actually play you some of the robust conversation back. So it entices you to call in. We'll announce at the end of the show what they've chosen for their topic for today. They always wait, see what's moving in the news, see what is top of mind before they pick. And then we'll say it on the air here at the end of the show once the producers have been in for a bit this morning. So stay tuned for that. But every day there's a call-in between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. And I'll also mention with the transit issues, these are going to become top of mind as well for all of us here in the city of Winnipeg, because remember, this fall we have a civic election.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
It's 11 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at the show. Abby Adeyemi, Corey Funk, Darren Marash, all behind the glass here in our control room. And Heather Wells covering the news. She'll be back with us with headlines before the top of the clock. And the national and international news on World Report on CBC. Thank you for making us part of your morning today. Tell you what, if you're active commuting today, you win. Really, really nice out there. Well above normal. Misty -5. It is foggy and we have an advisory for across the south, but we're going to be at 0 today. And it's not just nice here in Winnipeg. Brandon's looking at -1 for today, and then Thompson is looking at -2 for today. So we have had that split north and south, but it looks like today across the whole province, despite the fog, we're going to have some nice mild conditions. Well, speaking of where we are, Manitoba, many of you have been reaching out. I asked you, gave you a space on my Facebook page to say if you want to leave positive messages for Tumbler Ridge in this time of their tragedy, please post. And you have been. Comments saying, I'm sorry to hear this. My condolences to families and friends affected by the tragedy. Joshua McPherson writing in, as a member of youth leadership in my community in Manitoba, I find it so heartbreaking to hear that young souls lost their lives due to senseless violence. I think all Canadians, Joshua writes, no matter the province, can agree this tragedy marks a time of mourning for our not-so-distant cousins, friends, and family in BC. From my small community up north, I stand in solidarity with Tumbler Ridge. And it's interesting, those parallels where people are feeling connection. I also noticed the city of Flin Flon, where we were recently with the show, was one of the first to post, as a city, we're grieving with you, Tumbler Ridge. And Flin Flon and Tumbler Ridge would have that mining community in common, of course. Well, in times like this, national grieving, as Canadians react with shock, sorrow, leadership is also important. And Prime Minister Mark Carney cancelled his trip to Munich Security Conference and spoke in Parliament about this yesterday.
May the memories of those lost be a blessing. May this community, which has shown its resilience so many times before, once again find the strength to heal. And may this House prove worthy of what Tumbler Ridge has always been, by striving to make Canada a better, kinder, and safer place.
The leaders of the opposition also gave remarks in the House of Commons to talk about all of what happened there. Laurie Turnbull's with us, political scientist at Dalhousie University. Good morning.
Good morning.
It was interesting. I watched all of them get up, from every party, including Bloc Québécois, who I understand rarely addresses, in the House. And I did feel this sort of sense of Canadian unity. I'm not sure what you thought just watching the overall thing yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. It was a different mood in the House altogether, and appropriately so. All of the leaders wanted to be able to express their condolences, and I think, find comfort in each other. There's no motivation to not do that at this point. And of course, the House is typically a very fractious place where they're swiping at one another. And frankly, like yesterday, or this week, the Prime Minister was going to be heading off to Munich. And of course, that got canceled. He wouldn't have even been in the House, but I think his presence there, everything that the leader said in terms of being devastated by this and in solidarity with the community, I think, we can see that the politicians are able to come to be with the community in this moment. They can park the politics when they need to.
Which did make me feel proud, and I say that every just to see them not getting partisan in that moment, because not every country's politicians handle these moments like that. One of the Manitobans wrote in here, Rick Koss, about this. I'm just about the situation. Tumbler Ridge said, "I'm heartsick. This doesn't happen in Canada, and then it does. It's hugely important we reject easy answers or knee-jerk reactions. Equally important, we stand alongside the community with anything and everything they need. The time will come for deeper examination and responses. That day is not today." How important is leadership to model in these moments?
I think it's really important. I mean, they know that there's nothing they can say that's going to change what happened. And it's very difficult to try to find the right words and to find the right way to communicate with the families and the community. But I think all the leaders are certainly doing as well as is possible at this. Pierre Poilievre's words, I thought, were very impactful when he identified with this as a parent and said he essentially couldn't imagine getting a call like that and the hell the parents must be going through. And I think, we can see all the leaders really stopping in their tracks to think about this, and we can all relate. We can all relate to what it would be like to lose somebody, and to think of children being attacked at a school. Like, what is more horrific than that? And so, I think it's really important for the leaders to give that, give voice to what we're all feeling, and to communicate that on behalf of all of us to the community and to the families.
Yeah, he said, your parents, you're a father, I'm a father, he was referring.
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth May also actually made a point of saying she didn't want what she was going to say to sound prepared. She just wanted to speak. And obviously she's, is from BC. So it was interesting as well that this is not just at the federal level. So I want to ask you what you thought of some of the provincial responses that and what people were saying yesterday that were noteworthy to address the moment.
Yeah, I mean, all the premiers communicated their concern and their support, and basically said, anything that we can do, we're here. And certainly there are premiers and former premiers who very sadly have had tragedies in their time in office where, for example, in 2020 in Nova Scotia, there was a mass shooting. And just, being able to have that community of political leadership who rally around and who kind of say, look, never mind the politics, never mind partisan differences, we're here, we're all a community. And so, again, like you, I feel pride in that. I'm happy that the leaders are able to communicate those things and to just drop everything and do it right away, which is totally appropriate.
What will you be watching for, though, as we do move forward in terms of how what the follow-through looks like from the federal or provincial leadership in terms of helping the community and the country navigate this complex trauma?
Yeah, I mean, the road ahead for the families and for the community is going to be long and extremely difficult. And a lot of what's going to happen in terms of that trauma and the healing, I mean, that's going to happen on a very personal level, at a family level. But then, in addition to that, in the days and weeks and months ahead, we will learn whether there's going to be some kind of a policy response, whether that is required or appropriate in this case, whether different levels of government will take any action in terms of doing things differently because of anything we learn from this. I have no idea. It is too early to tell. And I think also it'll be about finding ways to support the community as those days and weeks and months go on. And, the road for this is going to be long. And it's not, right now we're in the immediate aftermath, but the community is still going to need a lot of support, in the months ahead.
All right, Laurie, thank you very much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
That is Laurie Turnbull, political scientist over at Dalhousie University. Speaking of complicated, some people are blaming the trans community after police confirmed the suspect in the BC mass shooting was a trans woman. We're going to hear how that blame is already affecting some Manitobans. Still ahead, we're also going to hear the latest on the investigation and we're not really the investigation details are still slow to come out, but we're going to hear the latest on what we understand about a vigil last night in Tumbler Ridge, BC. And we are still awaiting the names of all of the victims and obviously being gentle and caring with how we cover this tragedy in Canada. So stay tuned. World Report's coming up at 7 o'clock and it is 3 minutes to right now. Then we turn our attention back to Manitoba and things developing here. At 7:40, a sculpted ice Olympic mascot is bringing some people together here. But with temperatures above zero, it might soon melt. It's an Olympic mascot in the community of Riverview in the neighborhood. You might have seen it there. So CBC's Jim Agapito is one of our reporters in unit, and he visits this snow sculpture a little later in the show. As well, speaking of snow sculptures, Festival de Voyageurs is back for 57th year. Coming up, we're going to hear about the big activities planned for this year, the music, the sculptures, the food, the fun, and the must-dos that are on the list for this year's festival. So that is all coming up on Information Radio. Weather traffic in a moment. Right now, Heather Wells with your news headlines.
Good morning. Well, a healthcare union is going to court to make sure workplaces across the province are safe. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals has filed a court order saying the NDP government isn't doing enough. Rural hospitals may not have enough space to separate patients if a community is overrun with measles. The warning comes from the president of Doctors Manitoba. We'll hear about that in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, it is pretty outside. All the trees are coated in white with the branches, and it is foggy. So there's a fog advisory, yellow level, for the city of Winnipeg, Steinbach, Selkirk, Portage, Morden, Brandon, Verdun, Minnedosa, pretty much a lot of the south here. And that means that fog could impede your visibility, and it could pop up suddenly. So just note that if you're traveling out and about. Right now in Winnipeg, foggy, misty, -5, and we're heading for a high of 0. Right now, your commute's been okay, too, to this hour. So give us a call. If not, Corey will pick up the phone and pass it along. 788-3093. World Report is next on CBC 89.3 FM.
On the Current.
I've asked that the flags in the Peace Tower here and across all government buildings be flown at half-mast for the next 7 days.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. Tumbler Ridge, BC is reeling after a mass shooting at a local school. We'll bring you the latest from that community and how to cope after what BC's premier called an unimaginable tragedy.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Tumbler Ridge, BC is struggling with Tuesday's mass shooting.
I can't go out frickin' 5 minutes without crying about one of these kids that I know, or it's one of the things that they say, or a picture that I see of these kids, man. It's insane.
Dennis Campbell's daughter hid when a shooter opened fire in her school. He says she lost 4 of her friends. 9 people, including the alleged shooter, were killed at the school and a nearby home. The CBC's Brian Labby is in Tumbler Ridge. Brian, what is the latest on the investigation into this tragedy?
I'm standing outside the secondary school here in Tumbler Ridge, and the area is still sealed off with police tape. We're learning more details about some of the history with the RCMP and the alleged suspect in this case. They're saying that police have responded to the suspect's home in the past couple of years, some of those related to mental health checks and some of them related to firearms as well. So people in the community are looking for answers. The RCMP say they are looking for those same answers as well. And the Premier, who attended a candlelight vigil here last night, is also looking for those answers.
What are you hearing from people in the community?
People just want to know why. They're trying to make sense of this. They're coming together. There was the vigil last night. There were several hundred people who showed up, some of them holding candles, all of them standing close together, supporting each other here in the community. But that is the big question. Why did this happen? Why did an 18-year-old former student walk into the secondary school and open fire? And we know the ages of the victims, 12 and 13 years old. It's just really a baffling situation. They're trying to come to terms with it, and the emotions are still so raw. People just start breaking down. They start crying when you ask them, if they can spare a few minutes to stop and chat with us about what happened. It's really, really difficult, and hopefully in the days ahead, the RCMP and others will provide some information into what happened here.
Thanks so much, Brian. The CBC's Brian Labby in Tumbler Ridge, BC. For one town in northern Saskatchewan, the Tumbler Ridge shootings feel especially personal. Residents of La Loche experienced a school shooting 10 years ago. As Helena Mahalik reports, La Loche has made some changes since.
It brings back memories of what we went through at that time.
Robert St. Pierre was the mayor of La Loche 10 years ago, when a mass shooting left 4 dead and 7 injured. He says the community has lowered its flags to half-mast in solidarity with Tumbler Ridge.
We went through the similar situation, right, of tragedy and just the overwhelming emotion that comes with that unknown.
Buckley Belanger was the MLA for the region at the time of the shooting. The now Member of Parliament says his heart is with Tumbler Ridge.
It's devastating. This takes so much energy out of your lives, and I can only imagine how the parents and folks and families that are being impacted by this shooting.
Jason Young is the director of the La Loche School Division. He says feelings of heightened anxiety have filled the hallways since the news about Tumbler Ridge. Young says it's something the BC school and community will be grappling with for a long time to come.
There'll be a time for, next steps and moving forward, but right now that's not the conversation. Right now people are just sorting out what happened.
The La Loche School Division says since their own shooting, mental health check-ins are now a normal part of community conversation, and that it's essential for trauma counselors to be brought in during these events. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Talking with kids about this news story can be a difficult conversation, but CBC has resources to help. Today at cbckidsnews.ca, you can read advice for children who are feeling unsafe at school. Ballots are being counted in Bangladesh after a day of voting in a high-stakes return to democracy. This is the first national vote since a student-led uprising toppled the country's autocratic leader in 2024. It is considered the first free and fair election in nearly 2 decades. Voters are choosing a new parliament and deciding changes to the constitution. Salima Shivji reports from Dhaka.
The line outside the polling station in central Dhaka stretches long, with a steady stream of people arriving anxious to cast a ballot. Farida Yasmin didn't even bother to vote in the last few elections, but today, for the first time in years, she says she's filled with hope that her choice will count. Outside, soldiers in full riot gear protect the area against potential clashes between supporters of rival parties. It's been 18 months since a Gen Z uprising followed by a violent police crackdown forced the ouster of Sheikh Hasina, who had ruled Bangladesh with an iron fist for 15 years. There's a lot riding on this election, says 23-year-old student Rahul Ghosh-Joy.
Basically, it's an election for the students, but people are definitely frightened or feared about the scars they had before.
The worry, he says, is that not much will change. Students may have led the protests, but the election frontrunners are part of the old guard, the long-established Bangladesh Nationalist Party versus a resurgent Islamist party, Jamaat-e-Islami. The race has tightened in recent weeks, says Tawfiq Haq, a political science professor at Dhaka's North-South University. And what will happen after the vote count is key.
There will be a tension, definitely. In the history of Bangladesh, no opposition accepted the election result. Even in the most credible elections, the opposition said that the election was rigged.
Those results are expected on Friday. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Dhaka.
Mia Mottley is getting a third term as Prime Minister of Barbados. State television has declared that her Barbados Labour Party won all 30 seats in the House of Assembly. Mottley has one of the strongest global profiles of any Caribbean leader. But this election was not without controversy. The integrity of the voters list was questioned just 2 weeks before Election Day. And the leader of the opposition party, Ralph Thorne, says he himself was not able to cast a ballot yesterday. The Trump administration is dropping a key feature in the fight against climate change. The U.S. president is rescinding something called the endangerment finding. It's the legal basis for regulating greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S., everything from industrial facilities to vehicles. As Anayat Singh reports, Donald Trump says it has to go.
Already I've saved 74 coal power plants from crushing restrictions and closures that would have been forced to shut down in the
U.S. President Donald Trump hosting a pro-coal event at the White House to underline his support for the industry. Coal plants were being slowly replaced by cleaner sources of energy, partly because of the 2009 endangerment finding, in which government experts determined that greenhouse gases were harming people and the planet. It provided the legal framework for regulating those emissions under the U.S. Clean Air Act, eventually leading to cleaner electricity, policies to promote electric cars, and stricter emissions rules for oil and gas sites. Now, the Trump administration is revoking that finding, part of its campaign to promote the car industry and oil, gas, and coal projects without any climate-related constraints.
The vast majority of scientists all agree that climate change is real and it is happening. It's endangering current and future generations. So
Keith Brooks is with the Canadian climate advocacy group Environmental Defense.
It's problematic that this disinformation campaign is out there.
Trump's move to scrap it will be challenged by climate advocates in court, but for now it looks like the U.S. might be sitting out the global transition to clean energy. Inayat Singh, CBC News, Toronto.
NATO is turning attention to the north with the launch of an initiative called Arctic Sentry. It brings all allied military exercises in the region under a single command. It's designed to counter Russian buildup and Chinese interests in the Arctic.
Of course, since President Trump was re-elected, the whole American leadership team has been pleading with NATO and European and Canadian allies to do more. And the good news is the billions are coming in.
Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says this is a turning point for Canadian security. She is pushing for the mission to become permanent. Quebec skier Mikhail Kingsbury is adding new hardware to Canada's medal count at the Olympic Winter Games.
Little bubble there went through the upper bodies. Relax, big coming into the bottom air. Wraps the cork 1080. Yes! And lands nice and square. Will it be enough? 22.79, a little faster than his previous run.
That is the call from the run that earned him silver in the men's freestyle ski moguls final. He was actually tied for gold with Cooper Woods from Australia, but Woods won the tiebreaker. Canada now has a total of 2 silver and 3 bronze medals, and this could still be our golden day at the Winter Games. There are a lot more opportunities for medals, especially in speed skating. You can watch it all live or on demand on CBC Gem. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us on Information Radio in our CBC studios live downtown in Winnipeg. Across the province in the south, a lot of fog, even some freezing fog and freezing drizzle this hour. So to the west and a little bit to the north as well, you're going to have to watch for that today. Some light snow also falling into Dooley. So a bit of a mixed bag to start our Thursday here. This hour on the program, snow is music to the ears of those organizing Festival de Voyageurs. It is back for its 57th year. Coming up, we're going to hear about some of the activities planning in the works and happening this year and the must-dos at this year's festival as it gets ready to kick off. In addition, the Olympics have now kicked off, and a sculpted ice Olympic mascot is drawing attention in Winnipeg's Riverview neighborhood. CBC's Jim Agapito will have a visit. And to serious matters. At 10 to 8 this morning, we will continue to talk about the tragic mass shooting in BC. Some people are blaming the trans community after police confirm the suspect is a trans woman. We're going to hear how that blame is affecting some Manitobans. So stay tuned. That conversation's coming up just before 8 o'clock. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, who is in our news center with other developing stories. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a rural school division says it has temporarily put all international trips on hold. The Red River Valley School Division says it's concerned about student safety given geopolitical tensions. It specifically names the U.S. So we'll hear more about that story. As well, an Alberta company that proposed mining silica sand in Manitoba has partnered with the province's biggest university. CO Silica is teaming up with the University of Manitoba to work on an experimental design of a groundwater monitoring network. Those stories coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, with mild weather comes some changing conditions. It can be kind of back and forth. Abby, what do we got right now?
Yeah, Marcy, we're still tracking these foggy conditions, which is making the morning commute going to be a bit tricky for a bunch of people across southern Manitoba, as well as seeing this thick blanket of mist really creating tricky travel conditions in the south, while the north, we're still expecting fresh snow to arrive there. Hence, we have this fog advisory for southern Manitoba impacting the Red River, the Pembina Valley, and even towards the Westman region this morning. It's going to be causing zero visibility, but should dissipate as we get into the morning. For Winnipeg right now, we are at -6, misty. We're noticing heavy fog even within the city limit this morning, though the skies were clear. And then we'll see the transition. Some sunny conditions will come, then a mix of sun and clouds. We warm up to 0 later today. Most regions across the south, we're seeing temperatures near -10 degrees this morning, while up north, we're also seeing -10s there, though the wind chill around Churchill close to -26. 57. The fog patches would clear, and then they're going to return later tonight, so expect more of that. Winnipeg right now, we are at -6.
All right. It looks like there's some things developing maybe on the commute, Corey?
Yeah, Brookside Boulevard and Roy Roche Drive. There's been a collision there, according to the Winnipeg Traffic Management Center. So that southbound Brookside Boulevard is reduced to one lane only, and there's delays all the way back to the perimeter, says the city. So you may want to avoid that area altogether, particularly if you're heading southbound Brookside Boulevard and Roy Roche Drive. If you see anything else going on, if you have an update on that, anything else you're seeing if you're walking, biking, driving, I'd love to hear from you. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, you might be about to be hearing "Hey Ho" more often. That's because the 57th edition of Festival de Voyageur kicks off tomorrow. To give us a look at this year's festivities is Brianne Lavalley-Heckart. She's the Executive Director of Festival. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're on Zoom this morning. It's a good thing. I like your cute little Festival hat.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm wearing a toque a lot these days.
Tell me about this big activities happening this year that you guys want to highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. So the festival kicks off tomorrow, as you mentioned, and we run until February 22nd. So yeah, we've got lots of great stuff going on in the park this year. We've got, of course, musicians coming from all over Canada, as well as a wealth of local artists who will be performing across all of our stages. This year, we also am very happy to see snow outside. So we have some very, very amazing snow sculptures at Parc du Voyageur right now as well. So that's going to be great to check out. Fort Gibraltar is going to be open. And of course, Maple Taffy, the jigging contest, fiddling contest, all of those great things that we all know and love about Festival.
Do you want to highlight some of the local musicians that are going to be performing in the tents this year?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to just mention a little bit about our opening night. So we have a group, Les G Strings and Les Barn Boys, who are going to be playing. These are local Francophone bands. Les Barn Boys, they're a group of young Métis musicians coming out of La Broquerie who have really started to make their presence at Festival. And we're going to be having them on our big stage in Rivière Rouge to welcome the Francophone community. But we also have so many other great artists. We've got Amos the Kid, Sweet Alibi, all sorts of different great local artists. So we're really looking forward to that.
If people have never been to Festival, I always like to ask this question because, of course, having lived here, I've been many times, but some people have never been to Festival. So what should they expect? And if they have a family, just mention sort of what the texture is if you want something family friendly, or what does it change to late at night?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I absolutely always recommend is visiting Fort Gibraltar, especially with kids, because it's such a sensory experience. And we have costumed interpreters who are bringing the year 1815 to life. So it's really awesome. And it's such a cool experience for kids to be able to touch the furs and see what's cooking in the outdoor kitchen and really just learn about the history that really roots our festival. But we also have so much activities outside for kids. So we have our terrain du jeu, our playground this year, back in full force. We've got a great new fishing activity that explores different species of Manitoba freshwater fish. And we also have a snow skate park in collaboration with Pitaquay and Falcon Ridge. So it's going to be really, really fun. Also, of course, our snow tubes that we debuted last year will also be back. So lots of family fun activities. And we actually also moved our kids programming to our biggest tent this year into Rivière Rouge. So there's even more space for kids to come and to enjoy all that the festival has to offer. And then if you want to stay a little bit later, the park really transforms in the nighttime into really a veritable musical festival. And so when we're at the park, there's lots of great stuff to discover at night. One of the things that we're featuring this year is we're calling it a bière brûlée. So it's a burnt beer in English, but it's going to be an exclusive offering at the Tante Neige. And so we're going to have it's basically you take a beer, you put it in a metal cup, and then you take a metal rod that's been heated, and we actually made these metal rods in our own blacksmith shop, and you caramelize the beer with the burnt rod. So we're really looking forward to have that experience for festival goers. It's available any evening that we're open from 8 to 9 p.m.
I love that. Very cool. Very cool idea. Tell me a little bit about Louis Riel Day. That's coming up on February 16th. Are there different things planned for that day, or are many of the things you mentioned going to be carried over?
Yeah, there are actually lots of new stuff going on for Louis Riel Day this year that are specifically Indigenous activities. So we've got a hide camp demo. So there's going to be a couple of Métis women working on some deer hides at the park. So you can check that out. We're also going to have a brunch with the Bannock Babes, who will be performing in Maison Bourgeois. We're going to have a kitchen party that's featuring all Métis artists in our Maison Chapoyer. And of course, all of our stages are going to feature Indigenous artists that day. So it's a really great day if you want to come down and learn about the history of Festival and in particular the role of Indigenous nations within the history of the fur trade.
Any worries about the mild weather?
A little bit, yes. We're actively watching the weather every single day, making sure that we still have our sculptures that are so beautiful this year. And I'm really hoping, that the weather stays mild enough that folks are excited to come down, but also just a little bit chillier so that we can make sure that our sculptures stay intact.
From an organizational point of view, what are you expecting in terms of entry this year? How many people are you hoping for? I know you sell passes, so you might have a sense of what that's looking like.
Yeah, absolutely. Our sales are doing really well this year. I'm pretty sure a lot of folks are watching the weather and also seeing that we're going to have some milder temperatures, especially compared to last year where we had our first weekend during a deep freeze. But yeah, it's been really great. We're 90% sold out of our Pass Voyageur. So those are the wristbands that permit entry throughout the whole duration of the festival. So if you want to get a Pass Voyageur, now is definitely the time. We also have our weekend 1 and weekend 2 passes. Weekend 1 passes are almost sold out as well. So make sure to grab your tickets. But yeah, we're hoping to have about 75,000 people again this year and hopefully maybe a few more.
All right, Brianne, thank you very much. Merci, and have a wonderful opening weekend.
Yeah, merci, hey ho.
Now, that is Brianna Lavely-Heckart, the Executive Director of Festival de Voyageurs. The winter festivities kick off tomorrow, and so you can check out heyho.ca for tickets and look at the festivities. And as she mentioned, there's a lot of musical artists we could have chosen from to play this morning, but we leaned in when she said Sweet Alibi. They play February 21st at the Festival. Here's Make a Scene.
I keep writing the same sentence, keep on acting the same way. Every part is a new direction. Every change seems to take me back to the way I came. Start a new love, make a scene, make a scene. Start a new love, make a scene, oh, make a scene. So many reasons you need a lesson. So many reasons I need to change. I keep running, you keep running. I keep making the same mistakes. Start a new love, make a scene, make a scene. Start a new love, make a scene, make a scene. I've been searching in the wrong place, caught in a crowd with no direction. Can't keep running away, running away, running away. Start a new love, make a scene, make a scene. Start a new love, make a scene, make a scene. Start a new love, make a scene, make a scene. Start a new love, make a scene, oh, make a scene. Start a new love, make a scene, make a scene.
Heyho.ca for tickets and a look at the full schedule for this year's Festival de Voyageurs. It kicks off tomorrow in Winnipeg. That was Sweet Alibi. They're playing February 21st in Tante-Neige at Festival. The tune is called Make a Scene.
It's time to get loud, Canada, because Milano Cortina 2026 isn't just on your screen. It's happening across the country, and you're invited to join the celebration. CBC is hosting free live events packed with family fun, games, and activities, and full-on Team Canada energy. So get off the couch, come on down, and let's celebrate the games together. To find events near you, visit cbc.ca/experiences.
So you might have seen the mascots for Milano Cortina. They are stoats, and we also have them being spotted here around Winnipeg in the form of ice and snow, and that is because there's a big ice sculpture of the Olympic mascot on a lawn in Riverview. So we sent CBC's Jim Agapito to check it out, and we'll take you there coming up at 7:40 on the show. Also, still ahead in the program, I want to mention something coming up after 8 o'clock. It's a serious story you might have heard developing in the news this week. Animal advocates say that the 12-year sentence handed to a Winnipeg couple who made and sold videos of themselves torturing animals is unprecedented, and we're going to hear more reaction to that and how people are feeling about that sentence. So that is after 8 o'clock right here on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Next local news at 7:25. It is misty -6 in Winnipeg, fog advisory, and one issue in traffic. Southbound Brookside Boulevard and Roy Roche Drive. There are delays there. So if you want to update that situation for us, call Corey on the commuter line at 788-3093. Or if you want to let us know what's happening with the fog situation out there, wherever you might be in southern Manitoba. As I mentioned, it could be quite thick and coming up and reducing visibility. There has officially been a yellow level advisory issued for most of southern Manitoba, including Winnipeg. So 788-3093 is the commuter line, and thanks for being with us this Thursday morning. Well, the Olympic Games are now in full swing in Milano Cortina, and we have Olympic Update coming up next. Remember, you can find all the results and schedules online at cbc.ca/sports, but right now it is time for that Olympic report.
Medaglia d'argento per il Canada,
Silver for Canada this morning in men's moguls, and it was very nearly gold. Good morning, I'm Scott Regehr with your Olympic Games report. Mikhail Kingsbury, widely regarded as the sport's best ever, went tete-a-tete with Australian Cooper Woods today. Watching it all was my Olympic report co-host Sonali Karnik. Sonali, what stood out for you?
You know, the competition was so tight in those last few skiers. The speeds were great. The performances were great. They were pulling out everything to be able to get onto that podium. And Kingsbury and Woods have identical scores, but a couple of things went in Woods' favor. The tiebreaker was the turn score, and that's where Woods just edged out Kingsbury. It's those very minute details, Scott, that count in moguls, and considering how much every one of those skiers knew that Kingsbury was the one to beat, they all had to perform better than ever. The Quebecer is the winningest mogul skier in history that now includes 3 Olympic silver medals, 1 gold medal, 100 World Cup wins, and 27 Crystal Globes. He's celebrating now with his partner Laurence Mongeon and their son Henrik, who's just about a year and a half now. Now, Kingsbury, growing up, had a poster on his bedroom wall as a kid that read in French, Je vais gagner, or I will win. And he's won just about everything at this point, Scott.
And that's why he's called the King. Thanks so much, Sonali.
It certainly is. Thanks.
My Olympic report co-host, Sonali Karnik. It's not just Canadian mogulists pursuing medals this morning.
7th man down, but he's going to be the fastest by over a second. Elliot Grondin. Hello, Canada. Wake up.
That is Elliot Grondin putting in one of the top qualifying runs in advance of the snowboard cross final. After winning bronze and silver at the Beijing Games, Grondin will try and carve out a different ending in Italy, a golden one. And the Quebecer will be among the favorites when that final gets underway at 9 Eastern Time. A couple of hours after that, the focus will be on speed skating. The women's 5,000 meters is the big race today, where Ottawa's Isabelle Weideman is a serious threat for a medal. That gets underway at 10:30 Eastern. It's already been a good day for another athlete from the nation's capital.
And it's going to be a steal of 4 for Canada.
Just no way out for Team Denmark.
Rachel Homan opened up her tournament with a win over Denmark As dominant as she has been over the years, Homan still hasn't won an Olympic medal. She met with early exits in both Pyeongchang and Beijing. Joining me now is CBC Olympic curling analyst Joanne Courtney, a former teammate of Homan's. Joanne, how'd she look today?
The team looked fantastic, and Denmark, to their credit, they showed up to play. They put a lot of pressure on the Canadians early that game, but it was in the fifth end they ended up with a steal of 4, and that's what had them run away with it. But for me, what I was watching for, Team Homan, they have been outstanding. We are watching history in action with this team. They have been so dominant on tour. They have won the last 2 World Championships back to back. But what's missing for Rachel Homan is that Olympic performance. She went in 2018 as a team, missed the playoffs, went in 2022 as the mixed doubles rep, missed the playoffs. So she wants to round out that trophy case, and ending up in the playoffs, getting herself on that podium, like that's something that's missing from her resume.
Give us a sense of what that pressure is like, and how do you think Rachel's going to acquit herself this time around at the Olympics?
They're playing against the teams they play against all year round in lots of these World Championships, but just the level, the stage you're on, you can't ignore it. That stress is there. It's everyone around you. It's your support team. It's the media. It's the family. So for them, it's a matter of staying in the moment and not thinking about exactly what they're trying to do with their results.
Are you confident Rachel can do it this time?
I am. I really liked what I saw today. You could see there was stress, there was nerves, but I mean, if you're not stressed or nervous at the Olympics, then you're not human, and why even bother playing? And I'm really excited to watch how they grow and progress through the tournament.
Awesome. We shall see. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
CBC Olympic curling analyst Joanne Courtney. Lots of hockey to look forward to today as well. Canada's women take to the ice against Finland. That starts in just a couple of minutes, while the men's team plays Czechia in just over an hour's time. I'm sure 29-year-old Olympic rookie Connor McDavid cannot wait. And that is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. Feeling a little foggy. We do have a fog advisory right now. We are at -6. We're headed to a high today of 0 with a mix of sun and clouds this afternoon. BC is holding a provincial day of mourning for the victims of the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting.
Kids lost their lives for absolutely no reason whatsoever. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, ever. Coach my kids through this is going to be a difficult thing to do.
Dennis Campbell lives in Tumbler Ridge. His daughter hid when a shooter opened fire in her school. He says 4 of her friends died. The suspected shooter killed 8 people at the school and a nearby home. She then killed herself. More than 24 others were wounded. 2 are still in critical condition. The mayor of Tumbler Ridge says the community is one big family, and that family is suffering right now. You can hear the latest on this story coming up on World Report at 8. Here at home, a rural school division says it is temporarily putting all international trips on hold. The Red River Valley School Division says it's concerned about student safety given geopolitical tensions. It specifically names the U.S. Daniel Petro is the division's superintendent.
We have students, we have staff that are from different ethnic groups, religious groups, beliefs, etc. And right now, with the current tensions across the world, we find that our students and staff are safer to travel within our own country.
Some Manitoba school divisions said last year they would not be approving U.S. travel because of policies of the Trump administration. A healthcare union is going to court to make sure workplaces across the province are safe. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals has filed a court order because it says the NDP government isn't doing enough. CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
The Union for Allied Health Workers says there are laws in Manitoba to keep workers safe, but it accuses Shared Health of breaking or ignoring these laws. That's part of an application for a court order filed Monday with the Court of King's Bench against the provincial government. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals says the government is failing to ensure the safety and wellness of its members. Specifically, the union says Shared Health failed to create workplace safety and health programs, establish a workplace safety and health committee, and investigate cases of violence against workers. The government did not respond to CBC's request for comment. The province has taken steps in recent years to improve safety. Some facilities now have institutional safety officers who have the legal authority to detain people. A judge is scheduled to hear the application later this month. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Rural hospitals may not have enough space to separate patients if a community is overrun with measles. The warning is from Dr. Nichelle Desolé, a family physician in Nipawin and the president of Doctors Manitoba. She's responding to an increase in measles cases in Brandon after an exposure at January's Ag Days, a 3-day indoor event that attracted about 35,000 people. Desolé says she's already seen at least one measles patient in Nipawin.
Aside from being vaccinated, the only way to prevent the spread is to isolate when you are feeling unwell. But my hospital sure doesn't have a whole lot of space to separate and isolate people who are feeling unwell.
Provincial health authorities have identified 7 exposure sites in Brandon, including a healthy living center at Brandon University, a liquor store, and a pizza restaurant. An Alberta company that proposed mining silica sand in Manitoba has partnered with this province's biggest university. CO Silica has teamed up with the University of Manitoba to work on an experimental design of a groundwater monitoring network. The partnership comes as the company renews efforts to extract sand beneath the aquifer in the arm of Springfield. Carla Devlin is the president of CO Silica.
Water safety comes first. This work is about understanding the aquifer as a complete system, not in isolation, not reactively, but comprehensively.
The researcher leading this project says the monitoring system can only detect quantities of groundwater, not the quality. You can find more news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Into our regional forecast now for Thursday morning with Abby.
Yeah, we're still tracking that thick blanket of fog across the southern parts of the province. While up north, we're expecting light snow to come in as temperature falls. We have a yellow fog advisory in effect for southern Manitoba. This will be impacting regions from the Red River Valley region, tracking it into the Pembina Valley, all the way to the Westman region this morning. So travel may be difficult. You will be seeing a near zero visibility on the highways if you're traveling towards Brandon or traveling towards the U.S. border this morning. But that should dissipate as we get into the morning. For Winnipeg right now, we're looking at conditions around -6, misty, foggy conditions outside. Though the skies will clear, we'll see some sunshine, then a mix of sun and clouds. High today would be around 0. Similar conditions in the Pembina Valley region, -6 and dense fog, but you get to 2 degrees under a mix of cloudy conditions as the air clears. For Brandon, currently -13 and foggy, though the sun is going to break through. We'll see highs around -1. In the Parkland region towards Dauphin this morning, we're looking at mainly clear conditions. You got the fog yesterday, pushed it our way. You should be around -7 at this time. Light breeze, your high will be around 2. That's expected in the afternoon. Gimli is at -5. Dense fog also spotted in that part of the province. It's going to transition to a mix of sun and cloud. Later in the morning, we'll see highs around -1. In the Park, Flin Flon and surrounding community, we're looking at -13. Misty conditions also spotted there. You warm up to 1 later today. Thompson is around -8. We're seeing light snow starting sometime this afternoon. Highs around -2. And Tudula Lake, -8 also with light snow, high around -16. Actually, temperature is going to be falling through the afternoon. And for Churchill, we're looking at -10 with light snow and the wind chill close to -28 this morning. So overall, we're still tracking that fog situation almost into the northern part of the province, but more concentration down south. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at -6. It should clear and we'll see some sunny conditions later.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Yeah, we still got those pretty trees out there coated in white. Let's get to what's happening on the morning commute. Still an issue on Brookside?
Yeah, actually got a call from Dan Daniel with an update on what's going on there. So southbound Brookside Boulevard, aka Route 90, right at Roy Roche Road. Though, so that's kind of the northern part of the city. Going southbound, really backed up. There was a collision in the median lane, and he says it's about a 15-minute wait from when you kind of slow down to when you get past it, and not quite backed up to the perimeter, but still quite backed up. So you may want to find an alternative route if you're coming into the city. If you plan to come into the city from the Route 90 heading southbound. So heads up there. Other than that, though, I did get a call from Deborah about that fog in the Interlake there. She was coming down Highway 8 southbound. She said around Clandeboye, you get around she says you can see about 2 telephone poles. It's a 2 telephone pole day, she said, but then once you kind of get past that, it does clear up as you get closer to the city. So thanks for that call, Deborah. If you do see anything else going on out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Speaking of calls, if you called yesterday with your Meet Cute story, for a chance to win a Valentine's Day prize pack for 2 toques, 2 mugs, 2 of everything, really. We have a really great swag. We did get some fabulous stories. So we're going to air those on the show after 8 o'clock. You have until 10 o'clock today, though, to still call and enter for a chance to win a lovely Valentine pack from CBC. 788-3205. What's your Meet Cute story? How'd you meet your partner? 788-3205. Well, on a quiet Winnipeg street, a 2026 Olympic mascot is slowly melting. This is a 4-foot-tall weasel-like animal. It's actually called a stoat, this mascot. It's waving at passersby. It's carved out of snow by Gord Amaro. It turned his sister's Riverview yard into an ode to our Olympians. CBC's Jim Agapito met the artist behind the icy display.
My name's Gord Amaro. I've been doing this since about 2007. I usually do one at my place in Selkirk and do one at her place. Hers is usually a little bit smaller than ours. And every year we always kind of let the kids pick the theme. This year, with it being an Olympic year, we decided to go with a mascot from the Olympics. The Olympic mascots are Tina and Milo. You see a little plush figure that's given with the medals with the athletes, and I think it's like a weasel. So there's 2. There's a white one and a brown one, and the brown one represents the Paralympics, and this one represents the regular Olympics. I just didn't have enough snow to do both. There's a school over here, and the kids are always yelling out the windows because my niece and nephew go here, so everyone calls me Uncle Gordy. Hey, Uncle Gordy! And so it's great to see the positive reaction. And people drive by and they always pop in to say hi.
It's amazing. How does this differ from your day job?
Well, I work in the emergency services, so it's unbelievably different. But it's a nice distraction from the seriousness of that type of work. And this just brings positivity, right? So I'm going from a job where you see people in the worst moment of their life to something where you're just bringing happiness, hopefully, and joy to other people's lives. So yeah, it's good. The main things that I use are just a little snow shovel that I use in the truck most of the time to dig out if I need to. Snow scraper. The snow scraper is nice because it gives you a bit more reach, so you can kind of stand instead of having to go up and down the ladder all the time. And then some things I made, like this here, this is just a piece of wood with expanded metal lath, so it is really good at smoothing out stuff. And then some of the detail work, just a simple trowel or garden tool. So really this is all stuff that you can just take out of your garage and make it.
How long did it take to actually carve it?
I never really keep the hours because that would be depressing to really think about afterwards, but it usually takes me about 3 or 4 hours to make the block and about the same amount of time to carve it. So I usually make the block one day, let it set in the forms, and then carve it the next day. Well, that's the fun thing about the snow. They're going to melt at some point in time. I just usually hope that they last long enough that enough people get to see them that can kind of enjoy them, and just an excuse to be outside, and it spurs up some positive conversation. And there's so much negative stuff, especially with winter this time of year. It's dragging on and it's really long, and this is just something to make people smile. And yeah.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Weep, and we're a big Olympics family. We watch all the time and we're big supporters, so to be able to have a sculpture in the yard and just bring attention to it, it's awesome.
What's the reaction been like so far?
Oh, the reaction is the best. Everybody in the neighborhood gets super excited about it. We've been here for, I think, about 12 years, and he's done one pretty much every year that we've been here. we had a house in another neighborhood, but this house is right across from the school. And this neighborhood, Riverview, is just like an awesome family neighborhood. So the kids love it, the teachers love it, like strangers mention it. It's like just the best. We're so lucky that he can come and build this for us and for the community. It's awesome. He's so humble. We're so grateful, and honestly, he's been doing it for so many years, and I've never seen a bad one. You know, sometimes we try to help him. I don't even think we're helpful. We just come out and help shovel the snow, but we mostly hit the side of the mold. I think he just likes it better when we don't help at all.
What do you hope people take away when they see the Olympic mascot here on your sister's lawn?
I just hope that they, brings a smile to their face. The Olympic athletes put so much time and effort into their training and stuff like that to get to where they are, to have their dream. And I hope that those athletes know that all of Canada is behind them and supporting them and all the rest of that too.
There in his Team Canada hockey jersey. Love that. And he is being a little bit modest because that's a pretty good snow sculpture there on the front lawn of Riverview, right across from Riverview School in that neighborhood. CBC's Jim Agapito and Lindsay Wiebe and her brother Gord Amaro looking at that mascot there in Winnipeg. You might want to catch it before it melts because it's going to be mild today. And I know we've been saying weasel-like mascot. Last week we learned exactly what the mascots are for the Olympic Games in Milano Cortina. It is a species of weasel. It's called a stoat, which is a short-tailed weasel, also known as an ermine. There's also in Canada, in case you're curious, a long-tailed weasel. And then there's something called a least weasel, which is the smallest. I feel kind of bad for the least weasel. Can you imagine? Oh, you're just the least weasel. You're not the mascot. At any rate, this is a stoat. You can check it out in Riverview.
Have you visited CBC's Being Black in Canada website? It's an online platform to explore the stories and experiences of Black Canadians across the country. A space for news, documentaries, arts and culture, Black achievement in sports, and so much more. Celebrating a uniquely Canadian perspective on Black issues with the cultural moments that matter to Black Canadians. Visit cbc.ca/beingblack-in-Canada.
7:44 a.m. is the time right now. Stay with us here on CBC. Coming up after 8 o'clock, we're going to hear what the Winnipeg Humane Society wanted the judge to know before he sentenced 2 Winnipeggers convicted of torturing and killing animals. You might have heard in the news this week a 12-year sentence was handed to this Winnipeg couple, but we're going to talk to the Humane Society about the significance of that sentence and also what they said to the judge. So stay tuned, and we're going to hear more after 8 o'clock. It is right now -6 and misty in Winnipeg, that fog warning extending across southern Manitoba, and a bit of music next from Canadian singer-songwriter Alison Russell, who was joined by American powerhouse Brandi Carlile with some on this tune. This is a bit of Thursday inspiration for you. This tune's called You're Not Alone.
Star, how bright you are. Anywhere you go, you're not alone. Rocks and bugs and angel wings, every little shiny thing. Star and the compass, always finding something wondrous. Anywhere you go, you're
everybody, sing together more. Wow, huh? Allison Russell, Brandy Carlisle, You're Not Alone on CBC. Love how their voices are together. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Next on the show, I want to walk through some of the information that we have verified out of Tumbler Ridge, and this has to do with the shooter. As you've been hearing in the news, we're learning more about the tragic mass shooting in British Columbia. Police say the suspect, the person suspected of being the shooter, I should correctly say, killed their mother and step-sibling. They then killed a teacher and 5 children at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. 6 kids, that is incorrect, at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School before shooting themselves. Yesterday, however, we learned more information that the alleged killer was a trans woman. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about CBC's verified reporting this morning. Hours before police had confirmed the identity of the suspect, there were anger and false claims that were already being directed at the trans community. And they are coming in a number of different forms. So American right-wing political commentator Matt Walsh was among the pundits weighing in on social media on Wednesday, telling his 4 million followers on X that trans people are, quote, the most dangerous and unstable group in existence, and it's not close, end quote, without providing any evidence to support the claim. James Dansley, co-founder of the Violence Prevention Network that tracks mass shootings in the United States, says the claims that some are making about an epidemic of mass shootings by transgender people are not true and can be refuted by statistical evidence. So we have some of that statistical evidence for you. In the United States, he says 97.5% of mass shootings in his database were carried out by men who are cisgender, those who identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. 2% of those shootings were carried out by women, and 0.5% were carried out by people who are trans, making trans people statistically underrepresented. Now, in this country, BC MLA Tara Armstrong tweeted in part, quote, "There's an epidemic of transgender violence spreading across the West." She went on to say this epidemic of violence will continue until we change our society's response to transgender ideology, end quote. And there were also similar sentiments expressed on some right-wing Canadian media outlets. Now, I'm outlining all of this and talking about the statistical, obviously, evidence that these are false statements because some Manitobans have been affected by this. So as we continue to lean into the facts of what happened in Tumbler Ridge, BC, and mourn with those families and come together as a country over this tragedy and try to simply learn more about what happened, what was involved here, what the response was like, who the victims were, we also want to talk to some of those people here who have some deep concerns about these false narratives. Charlie O is one of them, Executive Director of Trans Manitoba, and we also did reach out to others to join us this morning, but Charlie was able to be here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me today, Mercy.
How are you feeling hearing this news?
I'm devastated. This is absolutely horrific and heartbreaking, and I'm sad for the families of Tumbler Ridge and the community. We send our condolences there, and I'm sad for the trans community in the way that personified in this case.
What's your response to blame being put on trans people? And I'm not talking about an individual. I'm talking about how this is spread. I mentioned a number of examples.
It's not fair, and it's not okay, and it's going to put trans people in danger to be characterized as creating systemic harm.
Why do you think, given the statistical evidence saying otherwise, that trans people and violence continue to be connected? And how has that impacted your life here as a Manitoban over these number of years, maybe, or months?
Well, I think that over the last 100 years, trans people have been characterized as people of poor mental health by the government and medical systems, and that we've been pathologized to the degree that society buys into the idea that we are people who are dangerous with serious mental health conditions, and that impacts how we are treated generally by society, and it impacts things like how we access employment, how we access um, housing, how we access medical care, and it means that we meet transphobia at every single step of the way.
Um, I mentioned that Manitobans were already being affected by these false narratives coming out even before the identity of the shooter, was made in BC. How have you seen that in Manitoba? Were people texting each other, or can you bring us into your community for a moment?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as people were, like, even before the facts were confirmed, there was talk in the community about, of course, standing with Tumbler Ridge, and um, just deepest sympathies and condolences. Nobody in our community wants to um, hear about this horrific violence in any context, especially here in a school in Canada. It's the worst nightmare of any parent, student, any trans person. Um, we were talking right away about how to support Tumbler Ridge and about how to combat the hatred that we are going to experience as a community. And immediately around a lot of conversations around care. How do we support one another? How do we support the trans community in BC? How do we support the families in Tumbler Ridge and express our care?
Have solutions come up for that, or ideas, I should say, rather? There's hardly a solution in this case, but have ideas come up for that yet, or is it still in the development phase of how to show that support?
I think that there's lots of ideas still in development. There's a lot of shows of solidarity right now, and that we're still coming together to figure out the best ways.
This morning I talked to a psychologist about the whole situation, about people grieving, about shock, about dealing with conversations with children. I mean, these were little kids that lost their lives, about all of it. But I also talked about this aspect of things, and she was rightly pointing out that that we have no evidence to equate anything about being transgender with violence disproportionately at all. But she also was saying that it's an important moment, because this was the focus, to lean in with maybe transgender youth right now. What are your thoughts on that, about how you're feeling about someone who is young and thinking about their own identity?
Yeah, absolutely. Trans youth need our support now more than ever. And I think that this is a really good example of a very vulnerable young person. It looks like the evidence is pointing towards this person having existing mental health challenges that went unsupported. And that's something that even in Manitoba, we really need to look at, is how are we supporting our trans youth, and what kind of services and access to programs do they have? What kind of mental health supports do we have? And what kind of gender affirming care are we providing in our province? Gender affirming care can be life or death for trans youth, and it can make the difference between very serious mental health concerns and trans youth flourishing, to just have the support they need within their community and from their families.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Charlie.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you very much for being with us this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Charlie O is Executive Director of Trans Manitoba. I do also want to mention, because there's a lot of weight to put that conversation just on Charlie. We had reached out to other folks to join. We were just able to secure Charlie for that conversation today. Also, on those mental health supports, that's a question I think that's coming out of all of this. Those mental health supports for all youth across this country that are lagging. And we do not yet know, though, however, more information about specifically what happened in this case with the alleged suspect here and what may have led them to do such a thing. So we're going to hear more on World Report about the investigation and the vigil last night in Tumbler Ridge. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells for local headlines.
A healthcare union's going to court to make sure workplaces across this province are safe. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals has filed a court order saying the NDP government is not doing enough. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather. Fog advisory right now, misty in Winnipeg, -6. Wow, we're going to be 0 today, so still well above what normal is. Stay tuned. I think we all need a little bit of brightness, and we're going to get that after 8 when we play your Meet Cute Stories for a chance to win a lovely prize pack for Valentine's Day. Stay with us. Some great stories on our listener line.
On cue. I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power. Joan Chen has been acting for decades, but her new film, Montreal Ma Belle, gave her something rare, the chance to play a love story at this stage of her career. She'll be here to talk about the role and why playing immigrant mothers on screen has been cathartic for her.
But I truly enjoyed being anonymous.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. Tumbler Ridge, BC is reeling after a mass shooting at a local school. We'll bring you the latest from that community and how to cope after what BC's premier called an unimaginable tragedy. That's on The Current coming up.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
These kids lost their lives for absolutely no reason whatsoever. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, ever. Coach my kids through this is going to be a difficult thing to do.
Raw emotion from one resident of Tumbler Ridge, BC. Dennis Campbell's daughter hid when a shooter opened fire in her school. He says 4 of her friends died. The suspected shooter killed 8 people at the school and a nearby home. She then killed herself. More than 24 others were wounded. 2 of them are still in critical condition. John Hernandez has more.
The full extent of what has happened is not sunk in, and there are going to be some long days, weeks, and months ahead.
Speaking in front of the Tumbler Ridge Town Hall Wednesday night, BC's Premier David Eby offered condolences to families who are suffering.
All of us here will make sure that the supports are here, knowing that they will never be adequate for what you're going through.
A community vigil was held in Tumbler Ridge. Candles were lit and flowers dropped at the base of a tall pine tree outside the town community center. The grieving came hours after the shocking details were made public by police. The 18-year-old shooter, identified as Jesse Van Roostelaar, attacked students at Tumbler Ridge Secondary. 3 12-year-old girls and 2 boys aged 12 and 13 were killed. A 39-year-old female teacher was also found dead. 2 victims are in hospital. Van Roostelaar is also believed to have murdered her 11-year-old stepbrother and 39-year-old mother, Jennifer Strang. Their bodies were found in their home. Mayor Daryl Kirkauka says support counselors dispatched to the community have already proven to be a critical help.
It is so important when we see a tragedy like this, with young lives lost. Families don't have their children coming home.
The BC government has cancelled today's planned throne speech and will instead hold a day of mourning for the victims. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Today is election day in Bangladesh. That was the scene in the capital, Dhaka, as frontrunner Tariq Rahman cast his ballot. Today's vote is considered the first free and fair election in Bangladesh in nearly 20 years. In 2024, a student-led uprising toppled the country's autocratic leader. Now millions of people are choosing a new parliament. They're also voting on a referendum to rewrite the constitution. The goal is to prevent any future leader from seizing absolute power. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security is fewer than 24 hours away from a funding deadline. But first, the leaders of ICE, Border Control and Immigration Services, will be grilled on Capitol Hill. A Senate committee will ask them to defend the Trump administration's mass deportation policies. Willie Lowry is following the story in Washington. And Willie, what do we expect from this morning's hearing?
Yeah, this is the first time senators will have the chance to grill these top government officials, including Todd Lyons, the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, since the killing of 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis at the hands of ICE agents. Republican Senator Rand Paul, who chairs the Homeland Security Committee, called the hearing shortly after the killing of Alex Preddy. He says he's worried that the public has lost trust in ICE. Lyons and the heads of both the Customs and Border Protection and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services appeared in front of Congress earlier this week and refused to answer questions surrounding the deaths of Preddy and Renee Good. It's unclear if today will be any different.
And right now, Willie, there's a partial government shutdown hanging in the balance. How likely is it to happen?
That's right. Hanging over all of this is the possibility of another partial government shutdown. Democrats calling for a host of changes to the way ICE operates. So far, they've been met by resistance from the White House. Both Democrats and Republicans have telegraphed that the delta between them may be too wide to reach a deal before Friday, meaning Homeland Security could shut down over the weekend.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry reporting from Washington. In Switzerland, people will vote in a contentious referendum this summer. They will decide whether or not the country should limit its population to 10 million people. The proposal was brought forward by the far-right Swiss People's Party. If it passes and the population reaches 9.5 million, Switzerland would have to deny entry to newcomers. Both chambers of parliament, as well as the business and financial services community, oppose the plan. They say it would destroy Switzerland's economy. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says the United States is still the only power capable of ending the war in Ukraine, but he says allies like Canada are the ones footing the bill for the weapons. NATO defense ministers are meeting today in Brussels, and Rutte is praising the White House for its leadership.
The U.S. is still delivering crucial air defense and other lethal weapons into Ukraine through this Pearl program, so paid for by Canadian, European allies and partners. And the U.S. is leading the peace effort.
Rutte says the collaboration is the only way to break the deadlock with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian skeleton racer Vladislav Herskevich is not competing today. He was disqualified after he insisted on racing in a helmet with the images of Ukrainian athletes killed in the war. As Briar Stewart reports, Herskevich calls the disqualification the price of maintaining his dignity.
Herskevich, it looks like he's not going to start.
After a last-minute meeting with the president of the International Olympic Committee in Cortina, Italy, Ukrainian racer Vladislav Herskevich was banned from competing over his insistence to wear a helmet featuring the images of Ukrainian athletes who've been killed in the war. He had been wearing it during practice runs, but the IOC said it violated the rules of expression on the field of play, and he couldn't wear it in the race. When he refused to abide by those rules, he was disqualified.
A terrible decision. I believe it's very unequal treatment, and I believe it's very wrong.
Ukraine's foreign minister called the IOC decision a moment of shame. The president of the IOC, Kirsty Coventry, met with Herskevich this morning.
He would not consider the many compromises that we offered him.
Mark Adams is the IOC spokesperson.
With 130 conflicts in the world, 130 different cases, if everyone is allowed to express themselves in that way, beyond a black armband, it will create a field of play which becomes a field of expression.
Adams was asked why Herskevich can't wear the helmet, but other athletes can pay tribute to their family members, including figure skaters holding up photos while waiting for their scores. The IOC reiterated that Herskevich was asked just not to wear the helmet during the race. He says he plans to appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, but it's not clear how soon his case could be heard. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Milan.
Starting today, alcohol from the U.S. is back on shelves in Quebec. The bottles have been in storage for nearly a year. They were taken off the shelves in response to U.S. tariffs. Now the province is selling that stock at a discount to prevent it from spoiling. Alexander Silberman reports.
In Quebec liquor stores, some American booze is going back on sale nearly a year after being pulled from the shelves in response to U.S. tariffs.
It's good.
I do not support.
Why are we stopping it?
The provincial government is allowing liquor stores to reshelve some products starting Thursday, despite an ongoing import ban issued on March of last year.
I'm very happy.
Outside a Montreal store, many shoppers like Marie-Christine Blanchard say they support the sale for charity and the ban.
I think it's the current now to boycott American products, so I completely agree with it.
The goal is to get rid of stored items whose quality might start degrading as of March 2027. The SAQ, Quebec's liquor board, says it will offer a 15% discount to clear any remaining American inventory. Proceeds from the sale of those products will be going to Quebec food banks, which could total up to $8.4 million.
This move by the liquor stores is symbolic.
David Soberman is a marketing professor at the University of Toronto. He has mixed feelings about liquor store bans.
You might buy wine made in Canada, but you might also buy wine made in France or Italy.
Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador are also selling off their inventory and donating the profits to charity. Only 2 provinces, Saskatchewan and Alberta, have resumed full sales. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Montreal.
And some breaking news from the Olympic Winter Games. Canada's Elliott Grondonin has just won silver in men's snowboard cross. You can watch it all on CBC Gem. That is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. Thanks for joining us on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. It is Thursday morning. It's misty and foggy and well above normal still for the daytime conditions expected today. Abby with your forecast momentarily. Also, you've been calling our listener line with some pretty cute stuff. We asked for your Meet Cute story for a chance to win a lovely Valentine's Day package. Everything for 2. 2 toques, bunch of CBC swag. There's 2 mugs in there. There's socks, all kinds of stuff. So we're going to air some of your stories this half hour. You have until 10 o'clock today to call 788-3205. Valentine's Day, of course, on Saturday. Well, to a serious story this half hour, animal advocates say that the 12-year sentence handed to a Winnipeg couple who made and sold videos of themselves torturing animals is unprecedented. We'll find out more about what it could mean in future cases for animal abuse across the country. We're also going to find out about why the Winnipeg Humane Society spoke out in this case. So stay tuned. That's all coming up. Right now, Heather Wells with other headlines.
Good morning. Well, a rural school division says it is temporarily putting all international trips on hold. The Red River Valley School Division says it's concerned about student safety given geopolitical tensions, specifically naming the U.S. An Alberta company that proposed mining silica sand in Manitoba has partnered with the province's biggest university. CO Silica has teamed up with the University of Manitoba to work on an experimental design of a groundwater monitoring network. Those stories and more in our next local news at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby, how's the weather?
Well, slow start to most of the province this morning. We're still tracking a heavy fog blanketing the southern part of the province. Well, we're tracking a light snow trekking towards the north this morning. Fog advisory in the southern region impacting most of the regions from the Red River Valley all the way down to the Westman region. Winnipeg at -7 at this time. The mist is gradually lifting. We are headed towards a mix of sun and clouds and high of 0 today.
Here's Corey on your commute now.
And that's what we heard from Thomas about Highway 16. Foggy, but it is starting to get better between Russell and Minnedosa. Similar case from Deborah on Highway 8. Foggy around Clandeboye, but it gets better as you go south. Biggest issue here in the city has been at Route 90, right around Brookside Boulevard. And Roy Roche, collision in the median lane. I heard from Daniel that's quite backed up there, about 15 minutes to get through once it does slow down. So keep right to get around that. Going to be slow going. But if you do see anything else going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, before we get into our first interview this half hour, let's turn to some of your calls for just a couple of minutes here, because Valentine's Day Saturday, we did ask, how'd you meet?
My name's Naomi. I wanted to call and give my Meet Cute story. Today, February 12th, is exactly 16 years ago to the day that I first met my husband, Tim. We met at the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, which was really exciting. We had met online, and I flew into Vancouver the night of the opening ceremonies. And he was waiting for me at the airport, all dressed up with one rose in his hand. I accepted his rose. Bachelor was popular at that time. We spent the weekend kind of taking in the Vancouver sights and all the activities for the Olympics. The fun part about the story that I always share with people is on the flight in, you get to talking to the person beside you, and the man beside me was on business, and he asked why I was on my way to Vancouver, and I said for the weekend. And he said, must be a hot date. And I said, I don't know. I haven't met him yet. So I told him a little bit about the story. And as we descended into Vancouver, he said to me, well, young lady, your life's about to change forever in 20 minutes. And it felt so prophetic, and it was true. And we've been together ever since. We have 2 kids and are living our happily ever after.
My name is Wendy. My husband and I met in a kind of weird/cute way. I was working in a newspaper shop in London in the UK, and he came in to buy the paper, and I thought he was quite cute, so I put a little post-it note that said, if you're single and you'd like to go for a drink, with my name and the shop phone number on it, and stuck it just inside the cover, thinking, he's never going to call because things like that never go the way you think they might. Anyways, roll on 30 years just about. We've been together, married for 28. And honestly, to this day, it is the best use of a Post-it note I can absolutely think of.
Hi, my name is Peter. I first met my now wife 20 years ago when I relocated to Winnipeg and found a new job. I wasn't in the mood for dating for the first little while, but I had spotted Chris at our workplace, easily the most attractive lady there. Anyway, so 5 years later, I'd heard that Chris had been in a bad mood for a couple of days. It turned out that she just turned 50. She wasn't happy. And her boyfriend of 5 years had dumped her, so also not happy. I took that as an opportunity, and I made her my signature workplace pot lunch meal of a chickpea curry, something I knew she liked and it often bugged me about when I was going to bring her a special batch just for her. Anyway, so when I found out about her glum mood, I made up a batch of my chickpea curry, made from scratch, and wrapped it all up in a package with a birthday card and a pretty bow on top, and I left it on her desk. And 2 days later, we had our first date, and shortly after that, we were an item. We've been together 18 years now, and living happily ever after.
Hi, my name's Angie Burdette. I wanted to leave my meet cute story with my husband. We're from a small town in Manitoba. We're high school sweethearts. I worked at the local chicken chef, and he would come in and he would order one piece of chicken at a time, so that I had to keep coming back to his table. Eventually, he started picking me up when I would be walking to the local arena for figure skating. And the rest is history. We've been together for 39 years.
I love it. One piece of chicken at a time. The curry story too, right? Smooth moves. Thank you for the Meet Cute stories. We'll take them till 10 o'clock today. 788-3205 for your chance to win a prize pack from CBC for 2. It is 8:17 on Thursday morning, and back to some more serious issues. As you have likely heard in the news this week, a Winnipeg couple has been sentenced to 12 years behind bars for killing dozens of cats and other animals. Irene Lima and Chad Kabitz were convicted of multiple counts of animal cruelty after they made and sold videos of animals being tortured and killed. Lima would crush kittens with her bare feet. Kabitz would film the videos for an online chat group. And I apologize, I should have put a warning at the top of this probably. While delivering the sentence yesterday, Court of King's Bench Justice Jeffrey Harris read from a community impact statement written by the Winnipeg Humane Society. Krista Borishkevich is with us now. They're Director of Animal Advocacy and Legal and Governmental Affairs. She joins us more on Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's not that usual for the Humane Society to do a statement like this. Why was it important in this case, Krista?
Well, this is actually the first time that the Winnipeg Humane Society has done a statement like this in a case. And I think it's important for multiple reasons. In this case, certainly the impact to the community was so great. You saw people out rallying on the courthouse steps. If you follow any of the online social media groups, you can see just how great this impact was to the community. So we wanted to speak on their behalf. But first and foremost, this was a case that saw 90 animals tortured and killed. It was quite frankly horrifying. It's not something that we've seen in Manitoba or even in Canada before. So for us, it was critical to speak up for those animal victims who didn't have a voice when any of this is happening and who needed to have that voice in the courtroom.
What in the statement was really important to include, if you could share with us?
Well, in terms of the animals, we covered, we had provisions or sections that covered the emotional impact, the trauma that they would have suffered at the hands of their abusers, as well as the physical impacts. And I think that was really critical to have covered. That was the portion that the judge read when delivering the sentence. We also wanted to raise awareness about the impacts that this does have on the community at large. So whether it's members of the public who are impacted by the case or, animal rescues who are impacted through vicarious trauma and operationally in some instances, we wanted to make the court aware of that as well, because yes, this case was about these animals and these particular abusers. But there are ripple impacts throughout the community, and it's important that we all acknowledge those.
Let's talk about the sentence. What was your reaction when you heard it?
We were incredibly pleased, and it's bittersweet because obviously, there's nothing that could have happened in that courtroom yesterday that was going to bring those 90 animals back or alleviate the suffering that they went through. But this sentence is a landmark sentence in Canada. Prior to this case, the heaviest sentence for animal abuse in Canada was 6.5 years, and that was a case out of Calgary. So to receive 12-year sentences is something that demonstrated to us that this court really took the issue seriously. It sets a precedent, for future cases, and hopefully acts as a deterrent to anybody who's thinking of similar acts in the future.
There's a petition right now before the House of Commons calling for a national animal abuse registry. Do you think that's something that Canada would need, and why?
So the Winnipeg Humane Society actually has a position statement supporting the creation of a national animal abuse registry. I think it's important for shelters and animal rescues who want to make sure that the animals that come through their doors are not ending up in the hands of abusers. I think, though, that it's one piece of the puzzle, but it's not the entire piece of the puzzle. We've also been working very hard in Manitoba because when you look at some of these animal abuse cases, especially the ones where there are significant numbers of animals involved, many of these animals are being acquired online through sales or through free giveaways. And that's a largely unregulated industry. So we've been working to try to get some regulation around, when people are offering up their pets online, whether it's for a fee or otherwise. New Brunswick has done something similar where people who are selling or giving away online are required to have a license to do so. So at least there's some oversight of what is happening, because otherwise, it's up to each individual to ensure that their animal is going to a safe spot. Some people don't have the tools or the ability to do that, and some people, just don't care. So we think that there are multiple pieces to this puzzle that need to be addressed to really make a change in that regard.
Thank you very much for weighing in on this today. We really appreciate it. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Christopher Borskevich is the Director of Animal Advocacy and Legal and Government Affairs with the Winnipeg Humane Society, talking about the unprecedented sentence that came down this week. A Winnipeg couple sentenced to 12 years behind bars. The previous longest sentence was 6.5 years. They were sentenced for killing dozens of cats and other animals. If you want to read about the case, CBC has been covering the story throughout. You can see all the articles at cbc.ca/Manitoba. It is coming up to that time when we check in on what's happening with Olympic Report. You heard it, maybe heard at the end of World Report that this will be an exciting update because Canada has just won another medal. I do believe a silver in one of the snowboarding events, but we're going to get that update momentarily. As we head there, though, we just want to mention one more time what's happening out at Brookside Boulevard here in Winnipeg and Roy Roche Drive. There has been a collision in the median lane. Apparently, earlier at least, people have been delayed that were in the lineup to get around about 15 minutes or so. Southbound is reduced to one lane only. The delays have been backed up to the perimeter. So you're still encouraged at this hour to use an alternate route and to expect delay if you're heading southbound on Brookside Boulevard, which is, of course, Route 90 right at Roy Roche Drive. Corey is keeping track of that and other issues on the commute if they pop up. So 788-3093. We're late in the drive here, but still time to update things if you have an update for us. Also, we'll mention that this fog advisory that we've been telling you about all morning long, the yellow advisory for fog for Winnipeg and most of the southern Manitoba area is expected to lift by later today. So we may, in fact, already see some of that lift here in the city of Winnipeg, but across the southern Manitoba portion, we should see some lifting later today. We have had freezing fog in Brandon as well, which might make your drive a little bit tricky as well. Currently, we're still sitting at -6 in Winnipeg, -13, speaking of Brandon, with the freezing fog. And up in Thompson, it is cloudy, and the current temperature is -7. Well, during the Olympic Games, which run for 2 weeks fully in Milano Cortina, CBC is proudly broadcasting the games. And on our program every morning at 25 after, we get our Olympic update.
Good morning, I'm Scott Regehr with your Olympic Games report. Some are calling this Full Throttle Thursday in Milano Cortina, and given the way things are going so far, that title is apt.
Oh, this is going to be tight battling for gold. Who's going to get it? It's Hammerley. It's Grandin for silver. What a race.
Elliott Grandin wins silver in men's snowboard cross. The Quebec native was maybe an inch behind Austria's Alessandro Hammerley as they reached the finish line. For Grandin, it's his third career Olympic medal, having won silver and bronze at the last games in Beijing. Incredibly, Grandin's photo finish wasn't the closest medal call for a Canadian athlete this morning. Consider what happened in men's moguls.
Cooper Woods has done it! Tied score! The total score with Mick Kingsbury.
I have never seen that before. The Olympic gold comes down to a tie break.
Canadian freestyle great Mikhail Kingsbury fell to Australia's Cooper Woods in a rare tiebreak. After their times, jumps, and turns were all factored in, the rivals were deadlocked with identical scores of 83.71. In that set of circumstances, judges go to who had the better turns, and Woods, by the slimmest of margins, was proclaimed the victor. Still, Kingsbury takes home silver, the third of his stellar Olympic career, which also includes a gold that he won at the Pyeongchang Games. And another Canadian medal could be on the way soon. In long-track speed skating, the women's 5,000 meters starts in about an hour's time. Ottawa's Isabelle Weideman is a serious threat to make the podium there. With more, here's CBC's Omar Debaghi-Pacheco from Milan.
A grueling endurance race, and at the top of the list of contenders for that podium, Canadian Isabelle Weideman. Isabelle Weideman sitting second in the World Cup rankings for long-distance races this season. She's looking very good. Of course, the Beijing silver medalist in this distance, looking to get back on top of that podium. I talked to her right after her 3,000 meter event here in Milano, and she placed 5th in that race, did not look flustered at all by it. She said, listen, I'm confident, and my sweet spot, she said, is those last 2,000 meters of the 5,000. She is someone who other skaters call a freight train. She just keeps picking up power and speed, keeps it consistent throughout those laps. 2 top contenders to watch, though. Norway's Ragne Vikland, currently sitting at the very top of the World Cup rankings, and Italy's shining star, Francesca Lollobrigida. The other day in the 3,000 meter event, she broke an Olympic record. Not only that, just happened to be her birthday on home ice. You can only imagine that that is jet fuel for motivation, and you will hear the crowd here in the Milano Speed Skating Stadium roar when she hits that ice, and Isabel Weidman's job will be to chase her on that ice as Canada looks to secure a podium spot.
CBC's Omar Debaghi Pacheco. The women's 5,000 meters goes at 7:30 Pacific time this morning. Short track could also reap some Canadian hardware today. Stars Will Danjanu and Courtney Saroux compete in the men's 1,000 and women's 500 meters respectively. With more on that, here's CBC's Signa Butler.
It's edge of your seat action in short track. First, the women's 500 meter, 4.5 laps around the track with 3 Canadians in the mix. World Tour Crystal Globe winner Courtney Saroux of Moncton, New Brunswick, 2-time Olympic bronze medalist in the 500 Kim Boutin, and former World Junior star Florence Brunel skate in the quarterfinals. Then it's the men's 1,000 meter where William Danjanu of Sherbrooke, Quebec, and Felix Roussel, the top 2 qualifiers in terms of time, battle it out in the quarterfinals. All 5 of these skaters were part of Canada's mixed relay silver medal winning team already in the games. Signa Butler, CBC Olympics.
Short track should be a lot of fun to watch. That starts at 7:30 with Saroux up first, 7:30 Pacific time. Danjanu will be out there at 11:55, just before noon Pacific time. In women's hockey, Canada up 1-0 on Finland in the second period. The men will play later today against Czechia. That is your Olympic report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. -6 right now, becoming a mix of sun and clouds today, and a high this afternoon of 0. Struggling after the mass shooting in their hometown of Tumbler Ridge, BC.
Can't go out frickin' 5 minutes without crying about one of these kids that I know, or it's one of the things that they say, or a picture that I see of these kids, man. It's insane.
Dennis Campbell's daughter hid when a shooter opened fire in her school. He says she lost 4 of her friends. 9 people, including the alleged shooter, were killed at that school and at a nearby home. More than 24 others were wounded. 2 are still in critical condition. The mayor of Tumbler Ridge says the community is one big family, and that family is suffering right now. Today is a day of mourning in BC. Here at home, several Manitoba school divisions are maintaining a pause on school trips to the U.S. Many temporarily stopped going south of the border last year because of policies of the Trump administration. A southern Manitoba school division says it is now stopping all international travel due to geopolitical tensions, specifically naming the U.S. Red River Valley Superintendent Danielle Preteau says it is all about student safety.
We started to analyze, is this the best time to be sending our kids internationally due to the geopolitical tensions that are very present in a lot of countries right now. The board and senior admin found that it was the best decision in this current context.
Preteau says some trips to the U.S. would be cheaper since they are so close to the border, but he says keeping students safe is their number one priority. Rural hospitals may not have enough space to separate patients if a community is overrun with measles. That warning from Dr. Nishal Desailly, a family physician in Nipawin and president of Doctors Manitoba. She's responding to an increase in measles cases in Brandon after an exposure at January's Big Ag Days, a 3-day indoor event that attracted about 35,000 people. Desailly says she's already seen at least one measles patient in Nipawin.
Aside from being vaccinated, the only way to prevent the spread is to isolate when you are feeling unwell. But my hospital sure doesn't have a whole lot of space to separate and isolate people who are feeling unwell.
Provincial health authorities have identified 7 exposure sites in Brandon, including the Healthy Living Centre at Brandon University, a liquor store, and a pizza restaurant. A healthcare union is going to court to make sure workplaces across the province are safe. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals has filed a court order because it says the NDP government isn't doing enough. It says Manitoba has laws to keep workers safe, but it accuses Shared Health of breaking or ignoring those laws. It's part of an application for a court order filed with the Court of King's Bench against the provincial government. Specifically, the union says Shared Health failed to create workplace safety and health programs, establish a workplace safety and health committee, and investigate cases of violence against workers. The government did not respond to CBC's request for comment. A judge is scheduled to hear that application later this month. The company behind a proposed sand mining project in Manitoba wants to look into groundwater monitoring. CO Silica has teamed up with the University of Manitoba to design a groundwater monitoring network. The partnership comes as CO Silica renews efforts to extract sand beneath the aquifer in the arm of Springfield. Ricardo Mantilla is a professor leading the research, which will use gravity to calculate amounts of groundwater.
This is an instrument that measures the amount of water that exists and how that water is changing. So unfortunately, this particular technology that I'm working on, it measures quantities of water, not quality.
Mantilla says that the groundwater is an important part of Manitoba's hydrologic cycle. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
It's time for thank yous. Heather Wells, Aaron Broman, and Megan Ketchison in our news department this morning. Our live team today on the show, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and Darren Marash. Our producers for today's Information Radio, Nellie Gonzalez, who's the producer of all the shows in our Current Affairs unit, and Leif Larson, who's the senior producer of audio here at CBC Manitoba. Jim Agapito was our reporter in unit. Thanks to Jim for an item this morning. Also to associate producers with items in our program today, Sophia Peralta-Barone, as well as Sierra Sanders and Marshall Hodgins. Thanks, everybody. All right, last look at what's happening with Corey on the commute.
Southbound Brookside Boulevard at Roy Rush. That's us. Brookside Boulevard. That's Route 90 there, north part of the city. Collision in the median lane. That's got some pretty big backups going. Heard about 15-minute wait once you kind of slow down heading southbound on Route 90 there. So heads up, keep right to get around that. Other than that, some fog and try not to get distracted by that beautiful hoarfrost.
Yeah, it is really pretty. Abby?
Yeah, Marcy, it's still a slow start. Those fog patches not really lifting as fast as I really want it to happen, so it's still impacting visibility in some areas down south. We're tracking light snow trek across the northern part of the province. Down south, we're looking at temperatures near minus 11 in some areas at this time, but towards the Winnipeg area, we're tracking minus 6, minus 7s, and minus 8, and most of the regions should see highs near 0 today, Marcy.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Remember, you have until 10 o'clock, so a couple hours left to get in your Meet Cute stories at 788-3205 to win a CBC prize pack for 2. There's toques, there's mugs, there's these little things that cover your iPhones if you're out for a walk with your sweetie in the snow so it doesn't get wet. There's even socks with the CBC gems all over them, so you can go head to toe. If you want to enter, again, the only way to do so is by phoning us with your Meet Cute, 788-3205. Take care, be well. I'm Marcy Marcusa. The Current is coming up next with a special edition of the show all about the grief, the sadness, and the latest from Tumbler Ridge.